What it do, what it is. It's your boy, the Peace Dealer. It's 5:44 p.m. right now in Pacific Standard Time. Please do know setbacks get immediately turned into triumph and victories. We be turning L's into W's over here. And it is episode 100 of Peace Talk. I don't know who the dark forces think they are since they operate in the darkness like cowards, but they can't stop two light beings. And yeah, we have made it to episode 100 of Peace Talk. Said it before, I'll fucking say it again. We made it. And I have a very special guest, my brother, in truth. I was going to say crime, but Apollodite, what's good? How you doing?
What's up? What's up? And like you said, we're not tolerating any dark bullshit in this house. No, ma'am, because we have to step into alternate timelines to dip and dodge on that shit. But we're going to turn lead into gold and turn mountains into molehills. And so, yeah, this is amazing. So thank you for having me, especially on episode 100. So definitely leave a like and a comment below for your friend here, the Peace Dealer, because that's incredible. Because I don't know how you could, I mean, like, I have no air energy in my chart, so I don't know how you do it, but I give you much props. Thank you for doing what you do, because it's certainly divine.
Yeah, no problem. And I totally believe that this wasn't meant to restart, but it's better that we're starting over again, because you know how we do. I think it's really interesting too. We were talking about spiritual warfare, and shortly after, I mean, this exact same thing happened with me and Kara.
Oh, right, yeah.
We're talking about spiritual warfare, and bah.
Yep, kind of the way it goes.
Yeah, but Starhawk did say something about doing a ritual before, so it can't interfere, and that's something that I was told to do starting this year. So I gotta keep up with that. Other than that, though, yeah. Once again, I'm glad that you have joined. Let's just kind of recap certain things we mentioned before, like you being based in Massachusetts right now.
Yep. Currently East Coast life, but looking to see what's good out west, to see how they do it in, I was going to say the land down under, but that's not relatively correct. But I mean, it's deserty, it's sandy, it's hot. People complain about 50-degree weather and they're begging for a smack. Oh my God. Oh my God. I don't want to hear about none of you Californian babies born with silver spoons in your mouth and
your warm weather all year round.
I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it.
So you're not in Boston, are you? You're just in Massachusetts?
I'm nearby Boston. It's about it's like a town. If I told you, no one would know. And so it's about like an hour or so. But I mean, that's where I'm stationed at for now, trying to see what's better out there. But, thankfully, what I like about this profession is that we can do it from pretty much anywhere. I mean, it's not really restrictive in any way. As long as you've got internet and electricity, then you're good.
Yeah. No, astrology is one of the greatest professions of all time because, I mean, as long as the stars are up, we have a job.
Yeah, literally.
This is one of the very few professions that is not impacted by the economy or
yeah, so true. Yeah. And we're completely self-made. Like we all kind of have to be entrepreneurs. It's so difficult to, like, it's like no one's gonna sell you, no one's gonna take you seriously if you're an astrologer and you're begging to be sold and not do the work yourself. No one wants that shit. No. And it's funny because we live in an age where, I don't want to say of mediocrity, but I mean, like, how, like, not to, be disrespectful or anything to anyone, but I mean, like, how many dime a dozen, mumble rappers do we have? How many people do we have that are so, just how many shady politicians do we have that, have no real authenticity? And so I think it's important that as light workers or astrologers or whatever you do, that you honor that and you maintain that, because there are those that will not understand, and there are those that will never choose to understand, and that's their right to live and die that way. No, not to.
The concept of mediocrity is a very true one. I mean, now anyone can use a social media platform to gain recognition. And I always say this, like, the field of astrology does not have regulation. It doesn't have official accreditation, and it doesn't have research institutions. So anyone could really act like they're about it when they're not. So, you know, and it's really honored to have someone like you on here. We didn't really get to it in the first go around, but you specialize in health, horoscopes, and astrology. So let's hold off on talking about that, because that's huge. But it's huge. But I definitely do also want to, you know, kind of emphasize, if you're an astrologer, you're a scientist.
Yep.
False rhetoric is out saying that you're a pseudoscientist. Anyone who says that you're a pseudoscientist probably isn't in a position to disprove astrology, because they haven't read a natal chart. They don't even know what a midheaven is. If I don't know what a beaker is, I can't argue chemistry with you. But you have a lot of people whose opinions are swayed by what they read on social media, and people who don't know what a progressed chart is talking about how astrology isn't real. So if you're an astrologer, you are a scientist. And I think it's cool that we represent the new generation of scientists. Out of all the sciences that exist, astrology is the highest science, because you can apply everything through it, like health. So that's really dope, man. And how long have you lived in Massachusetts?
Born and raised, born and bred. I'm a masshole from the moment I was born, from the moment I will die. We are a rugged potato, mostly Irish Italian folk, but we do well. We, you know, when it gets too cold, or when the northeast comes through and it's a blizzard and it tears down the whole town, then you got to stock up on your milk and your bread. And you got to make sure you got everything right. But I mean, Massachusetts is a pretty nice place to live. I'm not going to lie. Of course, I do want to leave so I can see what the hell else is out there. But I'm not going to lie. And as far as spawn zones go, this is a pretty good place that I ended up. I mean, the most deadliest thing around me is a coyote, and like no bears, no poisonous snakes, no, you know, and some ignorant old folk who should probably, you know, who are some Pluto Cancers, Pluto Leos, you know, much respect, but it's time to go. You know, Saturn,
it's time to go.
no tea, no shade, but Saturn's like, come on,
that is the most Mars and Libra thing I've ever heard. Like,
come on, kids. That's what I see. That's what my curse is, because it's like, how do I be so sincere and upfront and like still like?
My Mars and Aries is like burn in hell. Your Mars and Libra is, it's time to go. Like,
hi, thanks for playing. Thank you so much for playing the game. I always tell people, like, life is a video game. Like, life is a stage. That's a Shakespeare quote, who I believe is actually a double Pisces. I believe, but yeah, you know, don't get to it. You know, live life in the moment. I think people assume life is anything but, and obviously you can look to the past for milestones and the future for optimism, but all you have is the moment. So when life's a video game, you know, play to win. Or at the very least, you know, like, have fun and don't be a dick. Because it's like, if you spawn camp and kill people who don't need it, then you're just kind of you're wasting resources, I guess. And trust me, Saturn's not playing around. If you're a soul right now without a purpose, you better find one. You better find one quick.
Don't just make it up too.
Don't just make it up. Unless you can fully commit to the Neptune Pisces, which is stronger than the Capricorn. But even then, some people will never reach that. Unless you're a Pisces moon, don't even try it.
It's interesting because, you know, my friend, shout out to Justin. I'm gonna have him on the Peace Talk soon. Nahum, he's from Boston, and yeah, and apparently there's some sayings there, so I'm gonna read some off.
Here we go.
Apparently, they say "happy horse shit" over there.
Happy horse shit?
Actually, yeah. Have you heard that? Happy horse shit?
I don't think I ever sincerely have. I'm not from Boston. I have Boston blood in me.
True. But, I've never heard of asshole. That one was a good one. I like that. Masshole. I'm gonna write that down. How about coffee milk? I heard coffee milk is the shit out there. Have you had
coffee milk is a real thing. Okay, so I remember it actually being a thing in schools actually too, and like little milk curtains. I don't know if anyone else did that, but it was like a thing in elementary school. I'm like, I don't drink much milk anymore, but yeah, it's a thing. It's not bad. I mean, Dunkin' Donuts is a way of life. You think people think America runs on Dunkin'? No, Massachusetts. Massachusetts is the economy of Dunkin'. How dare you peasants? Even as
Dunkin' Donuts has amazing breakfast.
In my town, there are 5 Dunkin' Donuts. I'm shitting you not. It's a way of life. And a regular coffee is 2 creams, 2 sugars. Because other places fuck it up. And I don't even drink coffee anymore, but it's like, because it's so funny to see how culture and the verbal dynamics play on that. So it's so interesting, even now, just kind of pointing that out.
I think this is the first time I'm hearing you use that accent too. That's amazing.
Okay, I'm not gonna lie. I'm a good Catholic girl. I don't drink much anymore. Not that it did anything to me, but it's like I didn't want to go down that potential ratchet route. So I switched to Mary Jane. But the point let me tell you, nothing gets more nasty, rugged, and oh my God. It's in college, I would drink UV blue mixed with Mountain Dew. And it was the most, people looked at me fucking crazy. And the accent comes out. It comes out when I'm angry, which is not often, thankfully. But like when I don't care, when I'm reading someone and I get I don't want to say out of control, but when I don't care, it comes out. And it's like, it gets very, very ratchet. I love it. Yeah.
Oh, I can't wait.
Where's my car keys, Tanya?
Oh, that's amazing. Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah, no, I got put on to Dunkin' Donuts late. Like I just like ordered some maybe a few months ago, and I was like, I've been missing out my whole life. Like I didn't. Oh, it's good. And I mean, like I've had Dunkin' Donuts as a kid, but I mean, it's so much better. But now, what about Bang-a-Yui?
Bang-a-Yui, Bust-a-Yui. So I've heard both. Let me bang Yui real quick. It's when you're the title suggests, it's busting a U-turn. So if you're taking a left and you're not driving all the way fucking 3 miles down just to take another fucking left turn when you're not supposed to. So when the light turns green, first thing you go is you floor it and you fucking twist it in and you peel out.
Bang-a-Yui, Bust-a-Yui.
Bust-a-Yui. I said Bust-a-Yui, but no, they stole that from Philly. Oh, well, I don't know who came first.
Is Flip a Bitch from New York, or is that more?
I think that's from New York. I've heard that too, but I'm pretty sure that was from some New York folk. So as much as there's a big beef between Boston and New York, there is mutual respect for being East Coast because we don't tolerate West Coast shit.
I noticed, East Coast people have this high nose with West. Oh, you're from California. You guys are dumb. I noticed.
Listen, bitch, we got MIT, we got Harvard, we got Yale, we got all these other fucking schools.
Cali has Stanford, but I think that's it. I don't know. You're right.
We got history, we got patriotism. Not that it's anything to be like too proud of, but I mean we're vicious, and I mean the Patriots do have 5 rings, so.
And I mean, the colonies started off in the East Coast before Manifest Destiny and before buying land for Mexico. So that's crazy. Get fruity right there. Yeah, man. So that's really dope. It'd be cool to see you out in Cali. I think we're probably gonna meet, if not in Vegas, in California. Like we mentioned before, Apollodite is my brother. Tim is my brother, man. We have the exact sextile sun, exact sextile moon, and which would be one thing, but it's both in the 8th house with Saturn on it. So, stuff like that isn't a coincidence, especially with your sun on my south node. We go back, bro, before the humans were created, and we were just angels in heaven politicking about what God, what the fuck the creator celestials were doing with the universe. And I think a little someone wanted to rebel, and the rest is history.
Interesting.
Interesting indeed. I really was fascinated with your explanation on what made you call yourself Apollodite, and you mentioned that Apollo is on your rising, and Spellsake mentioned that you look like Apollo. So even before you said that, it was on your rising. So I think that's amazing. Yeah, could you kind of explain it again? Like, how did Apollodite come into form?
Absolutely. So for those just joining now, so before I even knew astrology, before I even knew what my chart was or what it looked like, or even that a chart even existed, I chose the name like way back, like in 2013. It was just kind of like my username, I guess you could say, just because I liked it. And it comes from the Greek gods Apollo and Aphrodite, because I've always felt very resonant with them and what they ruled. And Apollo's the god of healing and of light and music and medicine, and Aphrodite, you know, she's the goddess of love and freedom and sexuality. And so I felt very, you know, connected to them, and it wasn't like either or, it was kind of both. And so I took the names and I combined them, and then eventually when I would come to discover astrology in my own chart, I would find that I actually have Venus, who is Aphrodite in Roman mythology, is on my sun, who is Apollo. Apollo is the god of the sun. And so there's that, but then also Apollo, the asteroid itself, is on my rising. So that's where I get the name from. That's where the similarities come in, because it's a very internal aspect where it's kind of like, I don't want to, you know, it's to be honest though, it's sort of like certain mythos, and I've always been a fan of Greek mythology. Always. It's almost felt like it wasn't necessarily. It was sort of like, it's almost kind of like, I'm trying to figure out the right way to say it, but it was kind of like I would always picture myself in the stories, not necessarily as the character or in a part of it, but as one of them, or if that makes any sense, where it never really, it resonated with me. And it always felt like they had a presence, as opposed to just being characters, where certain people, like, you know, certain people have imaginary friends, when in reality, they're actually speaking to advanced entities. And, you know, children, especially, they have no prejudice towards it. They're not told what you're told is, or unless they speak on it, they're not told this is not real. And so there's this notion, and me being a Pisces moon with the Leo aspect, I think that part of me always has had the opportunity to tap into all the little things, even like crystals. It's like everything has a spirit. And so I think that my spirit just happens to identify most with these two beings. And it's funny because archetypes exist throughout all of history. So it's really just a matter of, you know, pinpointing when and where and kind of why, I guess. So that's just me. That's just me.
And that's the one thing that I appreciate about being first house sons. Like, we really do identify more. I think it's honestly something only a first house son can understand, because when you perceive it being another sun, it really looks like we're just full of ourselves. My Gemini is in the first. I think about myself all the time. And you said your Leo is in the first, so you love talking about yourself, and it could be mistaken as like an arrogance.
Yeah, it does.
It's literally what we do. Like, I don't think, if you're not a first house, you don't think you understand, like, our whole basis of existing is identification, and we're actual characters. You know, that's why I can say I'm Archangel Michael. It's the first house, so like I'm identified with that, right? So that's why you could say you're Apollodite. And I feel like, how do you feel the Pisces moon adds influence to your Leo energy?
Interesting. So Mike's son, you should do a series on the Jinchuriki. I think you should finally just kind of, you know, break out.
We gotta come out. Finally,
that's never gonna come out. Yeah.
No, you're right.
I was just gonna say, you did do a blog post about it way back in the day. But anyway, so specifically, the Pisces Leo aspect is very interesting and very unique. Especially, I mean, all relationships between all signs are unique, right? But for the Leo Pisces one, it's interesting. And so Neptune is the current ruler of Pisces, and it always has been, really. But people aren't necessarily sure where it exalts. Personally, as a Leo Pisces, I think it does exalt in Leo, because one thing that Leo and Pisces share together is unconditional love, whether it's of the self or of the universe. And if you think about it, since the universe is one, the love of the self is the love of the universe. So there's this notion of I'm going to say almost even sort of self-sacrifice, where by sacrificing everything that is not love, I gain everything else, if that makes sense. Yeah. But another thing is, it's interesting because Leo is the main character, Pisces is the observer. So how do you be the main character of your own story while still observing it? Versus, and say if you were a Libra with maybe Gemini energy, you could still be on the stage as a character, and you could watch it later, but you're still on the stage. So my world's kind of split because I see I'm on stage, I can't see the audience, quote unquote, but I am the audience, and I'm looking at myself, and so it's weird. So it's kind of like
it's like a quantum mechanic mind fuck too, like being the wave and the particle at the same time.
It's just like that. It's literally just like that, and it's also sort of like an infinity mirror, if you've ever seen one of those, where it's like you literally just look into yourself forever. And it's funny, and I'll never forget this. It must have been like first grade, second grade. So like, God, I was like 6 or 7 or so. I'll never forget I was just in the bathroom, just minding my business. And I even had, shout out to anyone who had Bionicles as a kid. It's such an obscure like toy reference, but those were the shits. But I remember I had one in my hand too. And I looked in the mirror and I looked at myself, and I literally had an existential crisis at like 6, 7 years old, where I literally told myself, like, you're observing yourself right now. And I was like, and it literally like got me like in a trippy kind of mood and mindset. And actually, and for my moon, depending on your house system, it's either in the 8th or a 9th, where in equal it's 8th, Placidus it's 9th, but Porphyry, which I use, it's right on the cusp. So I like to think I'm an 8th house moon that evolves to the 9th house. So it's interesting, but yeah, that's kind of a little bit of, I've always had like this sense of fantasy. I remember I had a book about dragons and like how they were real and like how you could see the world. And it's funny because we're living in it now. It's like we're living in it now as like adults, especially like you and I. And of course, it might not necessarily be that specific or, that focus based. I mean, but we're living in, I've always sort of tapped into that endless childhood imagination, but it's real. And it's like when you can apply that with moderacy and with Saturn, it creates like the world of your dreams. And so, but of course it's a catch-22 because my sensitivity is through the fucking roof. I don't like people. I don't like going to big unnecessary crowds and shit because and you Pisces moon, first of all, it's not abrasive, it's just my hair cuff, everyone. Yes, I'm a double Leo with a Pisces moon. I've got Venus on my sun. I've got Saturn on my moon. So there's a sense of romanticism in my life. I'm not going to lie, where even the most tragic moments, which would make like a cat moon, like just like brush it off and act like it never happened, I like fall and keel over. It just makes life much more easier. And think about it, if we're all characters on a stage, the main actor gets paid the most to be the most dramatic. So it's like, might as well get the biggest fucking check here.
Saturn moon, about your money. Saturn.
It's so true. I don't take this physical reality serious unless it's my fucking money. Like, I'm sorry. Like, Rihanna's a Pisces. Did we learn nothing from that?
Did we learn nothing to that? That's amazing. It's cool because a whole lot of how we met once again. One of my favorite readings was with you when we first connected, because like you spoke my language, like everything, all the anime references I knew, you had it like, my God.
And that's how I knew you were. I was like, oh wow, he's not just some like con artist. I'm like, this man just referenced Naruto to me. I couldn't take him seriously as a professional, so might as well like take him seriously in general.
No, it was real. It was mad real though. And it's definitely cool also being able to empathize, having sun and moon in king kunks like that from first house to eighth house. Yes, anime references are elite, like Chad said. And what I really loved about it was sharing that same generational aspect, because I think representing the new generation of not even cosmophysics, like cosmic scientists, and really stepping into ways to make more postmodern and contemporary our interpretations really starts with our Kirks, really starts with all that. But I know you did mention that you were initially skeptical of all this before.
Yes, I did. And so really quick, I just wanted to answer one quick question just because I thought it was kind of relevant. New Age Jaw, shout out to New Age Jaw, asked an excellent question. Do I relate with androgyny? Yes, I do. For those who've been following me for a while, you've noticed that my hair's been growing out, and I'm not doing it for strictly an androgynous sense, but I mean, my divine feminine, I mean, I do identify more as the divine feminine than I ever do the masculine. And to be honest, every time I have astral projections, like my hair goes down. Like I got length. Like I don't play around when it comes to my hair. Like Aphrodite's got it by the pound and it's all natural. And so I'm just letting it grow out, not to, you know, just to kind of like do my thing. But yes, I do very much so go with the divine androgyne and to really quick answer that question.
And I was actually, that was honestly the next phase of what I wanted to ask. Are you comfortable talking about your sexual orientation?
Oh yeah, I don't see. Here's my thing. I don't think people like. I feel like they're granted in today's day and age where like the PC culture is too much, and it's like okay, it's a little like too sour, and people are like. Here's the thing: if you're genuinely curious about someone's way of life, if you ask them a question, you should never be punished for it. And I feel like a lot of people today want to talk about activism, and they're scared to, you know, good people are scared to ask meaningful questions to learn more because they're scared about being punished. So no, not at all. I'm completely fine about talking about it. To be honest, I think some of you other people don't want to talk about it, but to be honest, fuck it. Like I'm a fucking Venus first house Leo moon, Leo moon, Leo sun. But I mean,
you blend a lot of feminine and masculine energies. So it was interesting for you to say that you feel more feminine than masculine, which makes sense if you have your moon in a Pisces. I think you were with us when we did the future life talk with Tamara. And Tamara was saying that she actually at her core feels like the masculine person in her relationship. Well, the core is your moon sign. And even though she's a Cancer sun, she's an Aries moon. So she would feel masculine. Like with the
interesting, right?
You would feel very interesting. The astrology has the answers to a lot of what people say are gender dysphoria when it's really just more so cosmic. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Okay. So thank you. So this is a perfect segue just because I want to talk about this. And this also segues into health and wellness, which is what I specialize in. But so yeah, so for reference, so to be honest, when it comes down to true sexuality, there's no such thing as true sexuality. There's ultimately either desire or there is not desire, right? That's kind of the animalistic side of things. Of course, you know, there's, you know, the actual proper sexuality, you know, hi, how you doing? And then, you know, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, or whatever. I love it. But yeah, so to be honest though, so for reference, like the humans, so I think one of the biggest cons and the biggest disrespects to human life is to try and quantify it. Like humans humans created race, humans created different sexual orientations, which granted is a real thing. Because to be honest, you know, there's kind of, I don't want to say there's really, I can't tell you who you are, but you know, if you are of one gender,
a real made up thing.
What's that?
It's a real made up thing.
Yeah. Like so here's the thing, right? So here's the thing. Like, so if you are a male, you identify as a male, right? If you find women attractive and only women, you're straight. If you find men attractive and only men, you're gay. But if you find anything in between, you're bi. It doesn't really, because it's like a spectrum. I'll never forget one of the biggest things that Sigmund van Freud came up with. I don't even think he necessarily came up with it, but one of the most truthful things that I said to this day is that everyone's innately bisexual, and then due to genetic environmental circumstances chooses one or the other, which is interesting. And what's that?
It's a choice. Like the decision to curb any bisexual desire to just choose to be straight or choose to like your same sex, it's a choice. Like you actually
well here's the thing. If someone, for example, and this is a real thing, so in the Middle East and in parts of Africa, if you're gay, they'll kill you. A country the other day just made like stoning to death for gay folk. And so it's not really, to be honest, I can't really say that it is, because there is a cultural bias against it because of the societal margins due to the dark force interferences. Because if you look back to pro-societal structures like shamanism, people who were gay or androgynous, or people who didn't necessarily, because some people do just like you know, some guys who are just born men are just straight. That's just kind of the way it is.
Yeah.
Likewise, I feel like some guys are just, or some girls or whatever are born gay. But the fact of the matter is, it's not about the person. And I feel like a lot of people really get really hung up on the body, where, you know, like, let's be honest, like if you're going to make a baby, you need a sperm cell, egg cell, and a uterus, right? And that's just easier for straight people. But I think that a lot of people really get too attached to the body, and they end up becoming hypocrites, because these are usually the same people that say same sex, anything is sinful or of the devil, are usually, you know, doing the same thing internally, where either they have same-sex feelings, or they have a view on sexuality in general that's abhorrent and is ignorant. Because remember, you can look out in nature and find same-sex attractions everywhere. So it's not unnatural. It's literally found within nature. And so when people, it's one thing to not be that, but when people reject that culturally and societally, it's a dupe, it's a flaw.
Which is all lies. And you mentioned it earlier. It's really desire, because no one could be born gay or straight, because that's a label. Everyone is born with desire. Before society tries to twist your perception, a baby is going to look at someone with desire for them, whether they're a man or they're a woman. And when I say it's a choice, it's totally out of empowerment. Like you're empowered by your decision to choose whether you're going to feel that desire and you act off on that or not. And if you decide to do that, you know what I'm saying, whether you've reinforced it with any DNA or gene pool, it's totally, at the end of the day, your decision what orientation you're going to be, which once again I feel is very empowering. And honestly, in this day and age, you shouldn't be stoned for, you know what I'm saying? Like you should have the freedom to make that choice. But once again, like gay, bisexual, straight, that's all a label. It's all something that's been slapped on to put someone in a box where, you know, like you said, you either desire or you don't desire. So I think that's interesting, because, you know, I remember I spoke to somebody else, Nico, you know, Scarlet Moon, and he said something really amazing about how he doesn't necessarily, he doesn't see him being homosexual as like a part of his identity. Like
okay, yeah.
You know what I mean? Like it's so easy for us to focus and be like, oh, well, that's a gay person or that's a straight person, when he's Nico. You know what I'm saying? At the end of the day, he's who he is.
It does get a little, because it's a little bit of like, because it's confusing, because it's like, for me, that, so what you're saying is true, but it's like me, so like me minding my business on my phone, whatever, you know, the humans, they're like, you have an XY chromosome, you are a male, you objectively only find men attractive, you know, you are a gay male. That's kind of what society does, right?
Yeah.
And so, but the problem, and so I'm just sitting here, right? But now the thing is, someone else comes along and by word of mouth, they hear that I'm gay, and now they want to give me shit. And so I think that it's important to not, because remember, you are a character, you are playing a role. It is not your job to die for the role. You are just to play the character, but at the same merit, it's kind of like, you know, Black folk ever since day one in America have sort of had kind of like that intrinsic resistance, right? And so I think that there needs to be a balance of identifying with it, but not as it, if that makes sense. And being able to, because truth be told, like if someone's getting punished for being who they are, you know, anger and justification needs to rise. That's just kind of the way it goes. You know, no one was ever given rights for free. They had to fight for it, no matter when and where in history. I don't really know anyone who does, but it's kind of, because it's kind of like, when I always ask, what's the practical application of it? So to be honest, at this point, it's like society has to get rid of it completely, right? Because it's not sustainable. Labels are not working.
Labels are not
to do that, to be honest, in my mind,
only used to divide and separate, basically.
Exactly, yeah. So it's like so my thing is, and this is kind of my strategy, but here's the thing. If hypothetically, if everyone, or not everyone, but like a quarter to half of straight people came out as bisexual, it would completely erase, well, maybe not completely, but subliminally destroy a lot of, homophobia. And a lot of this stuff is generational based. So thankfully it's going to get better with time, but
is it a Murphy's Law thing?
Oh, in the sense, so it's in the sense that In what sense, actually? No,
in the sense where no one, because I mean, you'll have people get overly feminine or masculine and get in their ego and be like, no, that doesn't apply to me. But
oh, okay.
Specifically and technically, nobody is 100% straight or gay. Like, it's like,
yeah. And the thing is though, it is coming. So, because remember, because like gay people didn't put themselves in the closet. It was kind of, you know, like straight people. So I'm just gonna, not to like
this
point
true,
figures, but I'm a point figures. But
yeah.
that being, you know, and that being said, I just like, I think there's a group human need to honor the mistakes of the past and to work forward through that. And so the only issue is when people resist the history. And I'm sure, you know, when people get called out on history and they're like, oh, but that doesn't affect the now. That doesn't really apply to the future. And so I think that people just need to, if people understood the historical context of what societal discrimination does just on a social economic standpoint, especially since sexuality is, if you think about it, sexuality is older than race because it's before people moving out. People had sexuality since day four. You know, since day one.
Always been taboo.
Yeah, and so, you know, cavemen didn't care who was fucking who. You know, they just kind of did it. And so I think that there's this kind of, I don't want to say like, there's this liberation that's rising, not just sexually, but racially, culturally, gender-based, since we all have masculine and feminine within. And truth be told, I think sexuality, when it comes down to it, because for example, my soulmate who identifies as straight has told me that I am the only male that he's ever been attracted to. And so it's like, is he bisexual?
Well,
is he straight and one?
Let's take this deeper, because you said something before without even, I don't even think you were conscious of what you said, especially when you referred to yourself as a girl. You know what I'm saying? So
I wasn't even aware of that.
Exactly. So, and it took me a while to challenge. You've kind of challenged my views on this, but you know, and you said you identify more with the feminine. What if you're not gay because you're actually a woman? And
I've asked myself that same exact question, so I'm not going to beat around the bush. And so let's just I'm going to go right for the throat. To be honest, I don't know. And I'm going to go straight for the throat. So, and I don't think a lot of people, to be honest, I don't think a lot of people talk about it because they don't have the experience where, you know, I don't want to say a real straight man, but like a straight man in today's culture in America isn't allowed to be feminine, soft. You know, it isn't allowed, you know, they're not allowed to talk about their feelings, let alone their gender or their identity, where women might get a little bit more freeway. But let's talk gender dysphoria. And so for reference, I want to put a little bit of, I'm going to tell kind of my story a little bit because I think it does add some relevancy. So for reference, my father, he traveled a lot for work. He was in the military. And so he wasn't around a lot. And so I was raised primarily by my Pisces mother, ironically enough, and I'm a Pisces moon, which is interesting, but as well as my sisters. And so I was never, ever in my life, ever taught to repress my emotions, ever. Unlike many men, if not every man, is told to do such. They're told not to do that. I was never, you know, and for reference, you know, Mike has a Saturn cap moon, which is sort of like a walled up fortress, which holds back the water. In my case, the Pisces moon is like a floodgate. It's sort of like this endless swirl of emotions. But yeah, there's, for me, I was born feminine. I never had to learn femininity. It just kind of came to me, where I was always nourishing. I was always soft. And even in the psychology of things, when it comes to relationship and how men and women approach it, I sort of approached it differently, where, you know, many men, especially when they reach puberty, you know, they get really, you know, they get pubescent, they get hot and bothered. They want to, you know, reproduce and they want to sow their oats. But for me, that was never the case. I always wanted something of more development, something of more meaning. I never wanted 100 guys. I wanted just one. It's like, why have 100 shitty, you know, meals when I can have one delicious banquet forever?
How long have you felt that way? Like growing up and having to go through the gender roles of you having to be into women, were you into men your whole life, or was this something that you picked up after puberty?
So good. That's a very, 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 very good question. And this is something that, so in my, so I want, so first I really do want to count my blessings, because thankfully, I really don't have a homophobic family. Some minor, it's a lot of unconscious based stuff, which it's kind of, it's a lot of expectations, if you know what I mean. Kind of like how maybe certain people will just kind of expect certain, I don't know. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But anyway, to answer your question, I don't, before I go on a rant on something else, but so for me, interestingly enough, whenever I look back on quote unquote crushes that I had in school on girls, they were always the most popular girls, and everyone else always liked them. So I always liked them out of like groupthink.
Yeah.
And I never like, because it's like, and now that I think about it, I'm like, why did you like them? And they were like, because everyone else liked them, which is, I mean,
and that's common. That's very common. Yeah.
But for me, and I'll never forget, this is how I know that I was gay, because in 7th grade or 8th grade, because everyone wants to get cuffed, everyone wants to get linked up, because everyone wants to be, you know, the hotshot. At least all the boys do, right? And so I remember this one girl who liked me, and she had a crush on me. I remember she kissed me on the cheek one day, and I was like stunned by it. And then she was like, "Do you want to go out?" And I was like, "Okay." But then whenever I would know her schedule, so I would avoid her every single day. So we were together, but we were never seen together.
Yeah, like you had no interest.
No interest, zero, curve, goose, egg. And then when I got to high school a year later, this is when I guess you could say puberty started kicking in, and I went to a different. So long story short, 7th and 8th grade were shit, abominations of years. I don't talk about it. It was sort of like the dark ages. Moving to high school, it was sort of like the Renaissance. Everything got better. It is what it is. But when I got to high school, I joined the drama club, of course, and then that's where I would meet my first boyfriend, who was ironically an Aries, and I asked him, how did he know he was gay? And he told me. And basically at that point, because everyone else, all the other guys were talking about girls, chicks, boobs, and I was still waiting. I was still waiting for everything to click in. And I'm like, I'm still waiting. And it's like, nope. And then by the time I would say, I think like 2 weeks, 3 weeks into school, I figured it all out. And then me and him started going steady for a year. That was really great. He was a sweetheart. Much love and blessings to him. But yeah, and from that point on, I just never really found women attractive. And it's funny because I never compete with men. Like you know how men will just compete for no reason? I never did that with men. Like whenever a man would be like, "Oh, how much do you bench?" I'm like, and I just freeze, and it's like I hope they just go away, because it's like I don't know what to say to that. And it's funny because there's such a psychological culture clash between kind of, because to be honest, I'm very kind of like, I don't say I'm needy or imply that women are needy, but there is a need to be, you know, kind of protected by the masculine in some way. There's that kind of desire, at least the desire to be protected.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. And I'll say this, I won't go into graphic detail, but it is humbling to be penetrated, especially if the vessel that you have wasn't necessarily quote unquote designed for it. But I will say though, the prostate is an amazing organ, and it was put there for a reason. And it feels incredible. I'm sorry it took me somewhere, but anyway, that
got X-rated real quick.
I'm trying not to, but I mean, there is a humbling to it. And I think that a lot of men, on a side note, I was channeling this the other day. Like, I'm not gonna lie, boys, if you can't put a pinky up your own private end, don't ask to put it in a woman's. Please don't. I know how so many men ask me, how do I get my girlfriend to do it? And I'm like, you don't. You don't. What do you mean? How do I? Does she owe you her life? Like, that's the only explanation I've got. Like,
that's amazing. Yo, this generation is crazy with their ass eating and just like overall, I just can't.
I'm not going to talk about it, but I will say Pluto talks about desire. Scorpio rules the anus. Desire. I mean, it is what it is.
It's a fact, by the way. People with Saturn context, especially Saturn moons, like we are literally one of the oldest souls out. Like if you have Saturn on your moon, you've been around for a while. So I think that's
too long.
I think that's truly interesting. And I mean, like, oh, I don't want to forget what I was going to say because it was definitely tied into feeling feminine. You know what I mean? You never really read. Oh, that's what I was going to say. One thing that really surprised me was that there's like apprehension between straight men and gay men is forced. Like straight men, some straight men feel like they have to be homophobic to defend their masculinity. But I've seen a lot of straight men get along with gay people. But I didn't realize some straight women and gay men don't really like it.
Beef on site. On site, singing with them hands. Some women want, not gonna lie, I'm like not aggressive in any way, but some women want to try it, and it's like, sweetie, you can just put your hands on me and we can settle this in a second. Because some women are so insecure around gay men for multiple reasons. I could probably run down gut, but
could you mention some? Because it's a real dynamic and it's very fast.
It's real because it's catfighting. Because like women beef with women, men beef with men, and to be honest, because like in the context of sexuality, because like you should never look to someone's appearance for the sexuality, because that can be very misleading. But like, you know, if a guy's big, bulky, masculine, goes to the gym 5 days a week, you know, is proactive, you know, he's very masculine. He might like men, but he's on the more masculine side. And it's, you know, for example, if he likes me, that works out because we've got the masculine feminine dynamic.
I'm going to interrupt here because this doesn't apply to all women. I feel like some straight women love gay men, but they put them in a place. It's like if you
objectification.
Like as long as you're like, it's like having a token black guy. It's like you're my token gay guy. But once you start to be more feminine than them, it's like
they get nervous. They get very insecure. I'm not gonna lie. I just want to touch on this just because what you said is true. I think there is, you know, a kind of subtle beef, or not subtle beef, but a subtle beef infringement between straight men and gay men for the reasons that you said. Likewise, I think it's just misinformation in general, because it's easy, you know, propaganda is easy to spread. But I do think that some women can get like very nervous for some reason, not even just like physically, but it's like a sense of emotional intelligence. Because if you think about it, if a man is not sexually attracted to a woman, and again, this is not all women, so don't let it trigger you, but if it does, you know, wear that with pride. But with that being said, you know, because if a man is not attracted to a woman, has no need for any sexual activity, romantic or otherwise, and is more emotionally in tuned, not just with themselves, but with others, that kind of, I don't want to say that puts her out of commission, because it's not a woman's job, but it's like, what do you do when someone does a better job than you? And it's like, how do you get out of that competition mindset? Because it's all competition. It's all an illusion. It's all an idea. And, you know, there are definitely a lot of, you know, bad gay men out there. But, you know, there's also a lot of bad women. There's a lot of bad men too. And so I think that, and I agree with what you just said, not to chime in, but straight men definitely should stop forcing the straight label. It's like, and always
straight or gay, because you're not straight, you're not gay, you're you.
Yeah. Can I tell you that the men that I can tell are gay are the ones that overcompensate the most, the ones that talk about the most punani that they're getting.
I have to let you know that they're straight, even though
this was my soulmate. This is how I knew he was into me before he told me, because he would always act so macho man. And it's funny because he would always, men also don't brag about how many people you slept with. It's not a turn on, especially not to girls. Like, maybe that's just me, because it's like, I don't want to know where that thing's been. Like, I don't know. Maybe it's better blissfully ignorant. Yeah. I don't know. But shout out to Liza Minnelli, who is not dead, but she is a living legend. And apparently I sound like her. I live it. But yeah, I think that when it comes to sexuality, it's not a big deal let's just to bullet point, not a big deal between two consenting adults, no one's business. Stop forcing labels where they can be useful. And when it comes to like learning more about sexuality in general, where it's like, because there's like, you know, very different anatomy between a guy and a girl. But other than that, it's like, I think, and it's a lot of it's coming from older generations that were misinformed, but it's also like Pluto and Cancers, Pluto Leos, tick tock,
No, I had to ask myself an honest question. It's like, why do I consider myself straight? To be honest, like,
Because
what
you
I
were told
I was
that. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say because likely you were told that. I don't know, maybe this is just. I'm just going to assume this. Maybe just because with all due respect, I love you. Maybe it's just because I think that maybe you're Nigerian and your Nigerian parents want you to be married and have a specific relationship and have a certain image for you all planned out, and they unconsciously printed that. And this goes for everyone.
Well, that's what I was going to answer as the question. I was going to say if I'm honest with myself, I've always genuinely had an attraction to women. Like I was in second grade getting in trouble because I wanted to get with this chick and I wrote this letter, and I didn't realize like this is what manifested me hopping in DMs, getting myself in trouble, trying to write paragraphs.
I love it though.
That issue of trying to write whether before internet and just not going through. But
I love that.
Even though I have a genuine attraction to women, I know a huge reason why I never am into. I know over time I've built a resistance towards being attracted to men. So whether I feel desire, I'll stop it because I identify as heterosexual. But I can admit very much so the stigma behind it. Having parents that aren't really, proud of that or wanting that, being told that I'm meant to marry a woman, that really has gotten in the way. And a lot of men will not admit this. A lot of men will.
It's all unconscious, and that's the thing. It's like there's no shame because you did not ask for it. And I think that's the dark force agency at work, because it's like if everyone was to admit the fact that they've had same-sex attractions, not even like acting on it, but the stigma would go away so quickly. And thankfully, with the newer generations, a lot of the cultural biases are coming to an end where the overwhelming majority of young people are in support of it. So thankfully that's that.
I have a question for you because this has really been racking my mind. If somebody, because we all have a right to choose who we get with, right? Just like if a woman was to walk up to you, you would tell her, sorry, I'm not into you, right? If a dude was to walk up to me and say they wanted to get with me, I would let them know I'm not really into you like that. I'm not really into men. So what does that technically make me a bigot? Because like not really a bigot because I have my right, but is that technically prejudice? Because what reason do I have for not doing so other than because of how I was raised and just generally choosing to I wouldn't necessarily do anything bisexual, but knowing that a lot of it has to do with how I was raised, am I wrong for not wanting to explore that?
Well, so is it genuine curiosity? Because if it's not genuine, you should never do it. But I don't think it makes you a bigot for rejecting someone. Because like you said, if a woman came to me, I'm going to reject her. That doesn't make me a bigot. So I don't think it makes you. I think there is definitely a lot of. I think, to be honest, it comes from a wounded place because it's like there is psychological trauma from being ostracized from your family. Like gay people, queer people get kicked out of their houses. Like they get kicked on the street. They get addicted to drugs, sex work because they literally have no other option. And this is especially major in the 80s during the AIDS crisis. Like people were killing their kids not because of the AIDS virus, but because it was fear based because they thought, if I kick my son out of the house, he'll not have AIDS. It like didn't make any sense, but it is what it is.
The rhetoric is already out for this. Genuine refused to kiss or dance with a transgendered man or woman. I don't know how to say it, but
so actually, never mind. Finish your story. I'm sorry.
But yeah, he didn't want to dance with one, and they made Genuine look like they basically said that he was wrong for not wanting to do that because I guess he was transgendered, which I think is pretty unfair. But and that's not to blame any community, but there's certain rhetoric out like that, which is unfair to people like you who are more genuine with it, because then the narrative is, oh, this is how gay people act, or this is how transgendered people act, when it's really just a minute few people in the media that kind of act like that.
It just takes that one bad egg for people to run for it. I do think though that it does come from a lot of people, though. It does come from a place of rejection, because like, you know, it could come from family, could come from the neighborhood, or especially the religion. Because like to literally be told that you're a sinful being, it literally just destroys your psyche and your soul. But I think that, and it does come because, to be honest, there's a lot of straight men who are really specifically sexually attracted to transgender women who were born XY chromosome, i.e. born a man, and through hormones and whatnot, they've gone through a transition process. And funny enough, and I wanted to mention this before, and I really want to mention this, but so to be transgender, you must have gender dysphoria. What is gender dysphoria? Gender dysphoria is the condition where someone born of one sex does not identify with that, but rather the other. And I found a study actually the other day, and I did my own research into it, that actually showed that a majority of trans folk, the brain actually resembles, per gray matter area, the one of the opposite sex. So it's not as far-fetched as people think, because literally the brain structure is different. And, you know, people always want to talk about, you know, the body, love the body that you're in. But the thing is, the brain is the body, and you're honoring the brain. And so I think that, to go back quickly on topic, is that, you know, a lot of, you know, straight identifying men are really attracted to transgender women. It's not even to say that it's a women thing or it's a repressed thing, but the fact of the matter is that it's real. And a lot of trans women are like being murdered and killed because men are rejecting this part of themselves. They see something disgusting in them, and yet they continue to act on that, and then they can put violent impulses on it. And so I think that a lot of it comes from a place of danger as well, where
so
it's sort of like
men and women are different too.
What's that?
So men and women have a different brain structure?
Yeah. Men have and different body compositions too. Usually men usually have more muscle mass, more mass in general. Women have more adipose tissue, are usually more flexible. But yeah, this is it's all kind of relative. It's just that when people call it a disease, and when they call it something that needs to be cured, and just think about how disgusting it would be if
or mental illness.
Yeah, or and it's like if you had PTSD and someone was like, "Hey, I know you saw war, and we're going to get you cured." It's sort of like you did something wrong. And I think that a lot of people really rely on, you know, the terms that are almost used as prison wards in a sense. It's like, if you cannot be described linguistically, you will not be a part of the society. If you don't fit in this box, you're not going to be a part of it. And I think that fundamentally, when someone, even just for a second, questions their gender or their sexual orientation, it destroys that notion of who are you? Because it's like, how do you quantify yourself? But yeah, but I think this ties in well, because at least to the astrology of things, and to ask your question, or rather to segue back a little bit. But it was funny because, you know, tomorrow she's water fire moon, I'm fire water moon, and we both kind of mirror that. And so even in the chart, we can kind of see how different archetypes play out. Although I don't ever look for indications of being gay or being trans or anything like that, because you can't. It's all about the experience.
It's impossible to find indications of homosexuality in the chart, because astrology does not recognize homosexuality. They just recognize individuals, labels. But I will say, as far as trends, I noticed a lot of water sign moon men or water signs are usually homosexual, or they usually embrace that feminine side of themselves in a certain way. I've noticed that a lot with earth and water signs. Air and fire have a more passionate, flamboyant way of expressing it. But definitely glad we can explain this, especially in a more contemporary way. Hold on. Someone said, you aren't attracted to women, yet you're basically saying that the majority of men are denying their gay tendencies, as if straight doesn't exist, but being gay does. That's so hypocritical. I don't really think I think that's a misunderstanding of what you said. I don't think
for reference, you can quote me. I did not say the majority of men are denying their gay tendencies. I said that men do repress their same-sex tendencies. So, I mean...
And I think we kind of established that, you know, gay and straight doesn't really exist outside of labels. But
yeah, so that's not quite accurate. But yeah. Ooh,
But
we
yeah,
got mad. We got big mad. Ooh.
yeah, even Lucky D is throwing shots, even though nothing that they're saying is kind of true. But other than that, though,
Oh, wow.
I think it's a great segue, like you were saying, or like my good man Jim was saying, to health astrology. You are a foremost health astrologer. And when I say foremost, I do mean you're definitely on the track to, and you've put in solid work. In fact, we're going to do a sample health astrology reading. Could you explain your health background, and can you explain what health astrology really is, or medical astrology?
Sure. So for reference, so I want to apologize because my lymph nodes in my ears keep acting up, so it's like I can't even hear myself. But yeah, so for my health background, so you could say I started in high school when I went to a tech school instead of a normal high school, and I went through the health program, and I actually became a CNA, which I still technically am, which is a certified nursing assistant. And these are the people that work in nursing homes or in hospitals, and they help out the nurses. They usually, you know, clean and take care of the patients and help them out throughout the day. So that's where I started. And this was before I really got into astrology, but I loved it. I loved being able to heal and to serve. I love being able to help people out and to help people, you know, transition. I've always loved to, and to be honest, I love to tell people what to do if they need help and they're coming to me for help, because I'm just going to keep it straight up and honest. So, I loved it, and I loved first aid. I love being able to, I love the body as much as I hate the experience in one. I love the body. I don't know why. It's so funny. But and then when I got to college, I originally wanted to go for nursing, but I didn't get into the program, but I loved the school regardless. So I went, and I actually switched my major to exercise and sports science, which I actually got my degree in. And so in that course, I learned, you know, anatomy, physiology, how the body works. And even now, actually, if I pass I could just take the certification for the personal trainer test and pass it and become a personal trainer. So that being said, so now as a health astrologer, so I learned to do astrology in general, and then health astrology, I actually found some resources on the internet, and applying that to my I don't want to say regular knowledge, but I guess you could say my degree knowledge, I've been able to really balance the worlds. And so when it comes to health astrology and medical astrology, it's basically how does it relate to the body? How does the natal chart, even the progress chart, relate to how the physical vessel is playing out? And this is why one thing that's very important about health astrology is that you know your rising sign, because the rising sign is very important because it represents your body. And, you know, the sun is not your body. It represents your vital supply. So when it comes to health readings, accuracy is key, because there is sort of a right and wrong. You know, in astrology, there's no real right or wrong way, if you will, or at least interpretation. But when it comes to the body, there is sort of, you know, a black and white essence to it, where it's not, I shouldn't say black and white, but, you know, your brain is not your heart, is not your liver, right? So it's, you know, being able to look at how all these different things play out in the body, since all the planets represent something, and how it relates to your health, your wellness, and how you are able to take care of yourself. So yeah, but that's a little bit about it. Obviously, there's a whole history to it. You can actually trace it back to Hippocrates, who, reminder for everyone who's a doctor or who goes to a doctor who is under the Hippocratic Oath, just remember that Hippocrates once said, a physician who does not know astrology has no right to call themselves such.
True that.
Yeah.
And what's your favorite thing about, you know, being a health astrologer and doing like health astrology horoscopes, other than it being pretty revolutionary? Because you bring it back into focus. It's very revolutionary. It's still to this day, certain physicians can scoff when, according to Hippocrates' code, you know what I'm saying, they're not really true physicians. So
yeah. Sorry, what was your specific question again? How does it?
What's your favorite part about?
Honestly, I just kind of like surprising people. I'll never forget this one reading that I really had with this awesome Sagittarius woman. I didn't, and like when I do a reading, I usually don't ask too many questions unless it's like a specific thing, or it could be interpreted in different ways. But this one woman, I was really honing in on her chart, and basically it talked about her liver being very, very specific and very sensitive and very, very focused. And she actually told me that about like a week or two ago, she went to a holistic doctor who told her that the liver in her body was also one of the weakest parts. So it's interesting how that can sync up. I have no idea who this woman is, and even her body is like. And so it's funny because now that I'm associating charts with body types too, it's like I know someone's soul with the chart. Now am I going to know their their body too? So it's kind of like so it's kind of weird, but I definitely enjoy being able to help people, and certainly being able to give them practical advice. I think that if since astrology is science and astrologers are scientists, they must be able to offer some practical information, even if it's just information itself for a reading. But for me, as a specifically health, I do enjoy giving people tips and tricks to live a better life, because it's like you could live, it's not about living life the most healthy that you can, but it's like if you could live life more comfortably, why wouldn't you? It's like, why wouldn't you change unhealthy habits? But that's just it.
And just to touch on Trisha's question, before we get back into health, how does asexuality tie into this? Because that's something that I feel like everything we said applies to that, except with that, certain people who aren't. It's weird because I truly don't believe that someone can really be asexual, but I've never been asexual, so I don't have the authority to say that. I truly believe that maybe, someone could just have the self-control to not sexually be into people, which probably is less a quality of being asexual and more a quality of just being very mature and have a lot of self-control.
The Saturn moons, maybe. I feel that. I feel asexual, like, maybe it's just laziness, and I'm like, go away. I don't want to meet people. But asexuality, good point. To be honest, I would never recommend a life of celibacy to anyone unless they had like Saturn or Vesta like on their rising sign and they truly didn't feel it, because I feel like maybe like 0.01% of the world is maybe truly asexual, where because there's a difference between needing the right moment, the right person, the right mood to be sexual, because it's not just about the body, it's about the soul, if you will. And so I do think that there is some people who are less inclined to the physical body for attraction, which is, I think, a great thing, because I think too many people are, dare I say, a little bit too promiscuous. Not to like shame anyone, but I mean, it's like if you throw your body at everything that will have you, it's not treating your vessel with respect. But likewise, to be honest, I do think that there is a sacred choice in that, but for reference, it's not psychologically healthy, because I mean, like, not to get, too specific, but I mean, like, the Catholic Church, for example, for priests, you can't have any sex, any marriage ever for the rest of your life from like the age of 18. If you chose to be a priest. So it's like it's not psychologically healthy. That's not to say it shouldn't, like, you should never want to be asexual. You just kind of are or you're not. And I think that some people might want to get too attached to the labels, because labels are useful for connections and for groups.
And I don't believe someone is asexual all the time.
Yeah, and I mean, it depends on mood. For example, like even men, I know chemistry-wise, if things are not right, they will not be horny. Likewise, if, for example, like if a woman does not feel safe, she will not feel aroused. And so it's sort of like, it's mental, of course, but it's also, I think some people, there is, and I mean, like very few people, like how you and I are rare. I mean, like very few people should be like asexual, but that's just how I feel.
It is a rare quality of the soul. I strongly believe that maybe it's just in it, because once we bring astrology into this, and that's the cool thing about this talk and what we're doing, there are astrological principles that are not acknowledged or written in literature. So it's easy for us to get the fact that someone can feel feminine because they have their moon in a feminine sign. And I feel like the answer to asexuality is individual. Not every asexual person is. You need to look at your chart, because maybe you have Pluto or Saturn on your moon, and Saturn and Pluto's like, I don't fuck with anybody. Like, pure, and it might manifest as asexual symptoms until you find that right person. So, it definitely depends. I think that was a really good question. And
I actually wanted to talk about that too. So thanks for reminding me.
And then there's people who are like attracted to everything and not just human beings. So it really depends on your chart. It really depends on what you're going through, and this will help strip labels, because maybe it's something that's not as simple as that. Maybe it's just a one part of many. But yeah, man. Whenever you're ready, Apollodite is going to give me a sample health astrology reading. And what are like 3 of the main things you look for in a chart when you do a horoscope like this, or a chart any of this?
So to be honest, I don't necessarily, and if someone asks me if there's something I should know, then I'll do that. If that makes any sense, if they have a specific problem, usually I'll ask if there's something that they want to know, something that they need to know. And I don't just specialize just in health. I just, because like sometimes people just get a reading from me and I just end up talking health wise, and thankfully there's something useful for them, just because I am learning, I am growing. Of course, we always are, but
are you going to do a master? You said you have your bachelor's in what?
In exercise and sports science with a concentration in clinical exercise physiology. So I could theoretically get my master's. I don't know what I would do with it, but when it comes to looking for specific things, I don't really do so. It's kind of like a flow chart, if you will, kind of, where it's like you go through the general things and then you make it's sort of like, it's being able to look at the details, but see the forest through the trees. So I'm going to really quick, hold on one second, make sure everything's good. All right, we're going to screen share entire window. All right, so can you all see the chart?
Oh, that looks like a sexy chart. Whose chart is that?
Some bum somewhere.
Oh, that's a sexy bum.
So this is Michael's chart. And so for me personally, this is what it looks like usually. But when it comes to metastrology, aspects and orb degrees are everything. It's a very precise. The more precise, the better. Because it's a little less lenient when it comes to, I don't want to say spiritual astrology, but since if you think about it, this is arguably the most physical astrology you could get, technically speaking, or at least the most personal physically. But yeah, sorry, I just lost my train of thought. Anywho, so but 50-degree orbs, or rather 50% decrease in orbs, is what I like to use. So this is just kind of an example as well, and so it's kind of weird for me to voice everything since I'm not a chatty Cathy usually. And so first thing I like to do is just look at the general energies and what we got going on. So if we notice over here, and I've got a lot of asteroids and stuff and whatnot, so please just bear with me. But if we notice, so right off the bat, we've got a Taurus rising, Gemini sun, and Capricorn moon. And so when it comes to, you know, any reading, any astrology reading, these are the big 3. And I think these also play out very importantly, especially importantly in health astrology. But you also always want to get a good constitutional lookout. But I never try to have like a solid black and white linear progression, just because everything kind of flows. But I digress. So let's just jump right into it. So I like to go to the rising first usually, because it represents your body. And so a Taurus rising. So Taurus risings are they're pretty lucky actually. And so and also a quick message that when it comes to health astrology and metastrology, just like every body, not all bodies are created equal, and there is favoritism in the world, at least in the universe. And I hate to say that, but in metastrology, Earth is not the best element to have, but thankfully Taurus is very robust. It's pretty mixed since it's ruled by Venus, who is also the chart ruler of Mike's chart. And having her here in Taurus where she rules, this is a really, really good thing. But Taurus risings are primarily earthy, right? But they have about a quarter air-like subnature as well as a quarter water-like nature. And so this is Taurus, interestingly enough, is the only zodiac sign out of the 12 where in metastrology it has sort of 3 temperaments, if you will. And so thankfully, Taurus risings typically have very robust health. The problem is, since Taurus rules growth, when things are not growing, it can be very, very detrimental. Fixed energy can be very stressful. It can be very cockly. It can It can hold on to things. It can hold on to stress, food. Taurus risings can even suffer, and I don't want to go into too much, but in general, Taurus risings can even suffer from digestive complications like indigestion or even constipation, where the system might not be as fast, since Taurus is the slowest zodiac sign. But thankfully, Mike's got Venus as his chart ruler. So thankfully, his body, and since Venus also exalts here in the 12th house, Mike thankfully has got a really good house riser. He really pulls some strings to make that work. And I'm very happy, since he also, jumping ahead, also has Pluto opposite his Venus. And so I'm going to get into that in just a second. So moving to the Sun Gemini, which is also very important, since if you don't know your rising sign, which not everyone does, the sun sign is the next best thing to go to, since it represents your chi, your prana, your vital supply, your vital capacity, how well you can endure as well over the long term. And so thankfully, Mike also has his sun exalted here in the first house. And interestingly enough, Mike has one planet in all houses of health, which are the 1st, the 12th, the 6th, and the 8th, which I'll get into in just a second. But moving back to the Gemini sun, it's important that as a Gemini, he really takes care of his mind and his lungs, especially since the sun is not really aspected by anything, which can indicate a kind of flighty, sort of out of control planet. But here in the first house, thankfully, enough of that Gemini looseness, because it's very fluid and very mutable, is able to ground it a little bit more so. But if I didn't know Mike, I would definitely make sure to let him know that there's a little bit of a polarity just with the Taurus Gemini energy, since Gemini is subtle. It's all about flow and air, versus Taurus, which is very blocky and earthy. Yeah. And so it balances out very nicely, since Gemini is also a little bit nervous, so he's a little bit earthy, but Venus and Taurus is thankfully adding a nice sanguine element to balance these two out. And so I know I'm speaking a lot here, and I actually can't pull up the chat. So how are we all doing so far? Because I know I'm saying a lot.
We're doing great, man. You're doing a good job.
Fantastic. And so something that I'm really also going to jump into is now the cat moon, dun, 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 let alone the cat moon on Saturn. And so this is interesting and a very big deal, since the moon rules Cancer and Saturn rules Capricorn. And so this is an axis. And so whenever two planetary axis rulers are in an aspect to one another, this can indicate a very specific part of the body that's problematic. And so in the case of Cancer and Capricorn, it represents the digestive tract as well as the structural aspect of the body. Capricorn rules the bones and the skin. And to be honest, Saturn, let alone with the retrograde Saturn, Saturn moons, especially Cap Saturn moons, can deal with a very, very powerful sense of emotional repression.
Yeah. So facts.
And so this can be bad because if we notice, Mike doesn't have too much water energy. If we kind of quickly cross out some of the asteroids, he only has his Pluto, which is generational, and Jupiter, which is personal, but it's more about growth. And so all of his major personal planets, and also I didn't even get to Mercury, who is the ruler of Gemini, 29 degrees on Taurus on his rising, can indicate sort of an overall. It's weird because in Taurus it's a little bit slow and sluggish, but Mercury's active. It's mobile. It's air, and so it can indicate kind of a lot of bipolar energy, a lot of bipolar mental aspects. And to be honest, depression is a very real possibility with someone who has an aspect like this. And you even have Neptune here as well. And so Neptune, who adds an element of sensitivity and sort of this sluggishness to things, since Neptune represents alcohol, drugs, addictions, and especially since it's, well, for you, technically it's in your 9th house if we're using porphyry. I'm actually looking at right now. So that's interesting. So funny enough, I guess it depends on your house system too, just like me. Oh, sorry, are you saying something?
No, go ahead.
All right, cool. It sounded like I was wobbly, but But with a lot of this energy, there's a lot of strong Capricorn energy. And to be honest, these people can get very, very serious. And so if this was, say, a health reading and I didn't necessarily know Mike, I would really encourage him to really don't be afraid to get in touch with your feelings and your emotions. And, to be blunt, I would tell him, like, you can't deny them. You can't repress them. Sorry, Saturn's strong, but, the moon is holy. And so you have to let the emotions flow, bro. Otherwise, you're going to suffer in silence.
Yeah, too bad I'm a Taurus rising. I'm stubborn till I die. So
that's so true. That's so true. And to be honest, I also, I try to approach a health reading in terms of, the practical application. Like, how is this person walking away from this? But also what I'm noticing is Neptune here actually opposes your Jupiter, which I actually kind of forgot about, which is interesting. And so actually, I'm going to get into that in just a second, since you do have a almost perfect rectangle. That's incredible. But so Venus now, I actually really want to tie into this. So Venus opposite Pluto. So this is a big deal as well, since, Mike, you don't just have one axis being activated, you have two, since you have the ruler of Taurus and the ruler of Scorpio going at it at one another. And so this can be kind of chaotic, since Pluto-Venus oppositions can deal with an intense need for, sexual connection, and maybe this is just because, I know you and the 12th house energy, but it can be difficult because there's this element of separation where the Venus Taurus wants to focus on things that are beautiful and Venusian, but the Pluto and Scorpio wants that edge and that quick fix. And so there's this kind of notion of the pleasure principle, especially in Mike's chart, being aspected. And since Pluto is inside the 6th house, which represents your diet, your hygiene habits, your regimen, and what you do every day, it's very important that Mike purges everything, or not necessarily everything, but Mike has to do a purification regimen every single day, whether that's spiritual or energetic or otherwise. Yeah. But with Venus here as well, it does very much so tie into sexuality. And
I hate to interrupt. I will say, to confirm what you said, even though it's not exactly what you said, every time I've done like a purging ceremony, like combo or any type of like ceremony, the moon was either transit Pluto natally, or the moon was transiting Pluto on my moon transit in Cap.
Wow. Yeah, and that's a 6th house transit. That's not even necessarily Plutonian, but Pluto rules elimination. Pluto rules the bowels and the bladder and the reproductive organs, which expel something, versus Venus, who rules the throat. She rules acquisition, how well you can even nourish yourself. And so it's important for Mike because this is a very powerful dichotomy. And surprisingly enough, Venus is actually a little bit more powerful, since Pluto is retrograde and they're both in their rulership. So, and what happens in the case like this is that it creates a literal tightrope.
So it's it being in the 6th house that makes me have to do it every day.
Well, yeah. I would, and it might not necessarily have to be something dramatic, but definitely there has to be a psychological flush.
And that's so true. That's so true.
I highly recommend showers. I know it seems silly, and I hope everyone bathes daily, but showers really can flush crap out of your system.
I was told moon Neptune's water is the best way to clear through showers.
Yeah, true. I would agree with that for sure, and especially true for you, since jumping quickly back into your moon Neptune conjunction, which isn't perfect, but it's 10 degrees, so we'll give it. But with this aspect, Neptune is a very watery planet, as is the moon. They're both what we call the phlegmatic planets. They rule the water in the body as a whole. And so for Mike, especially here in Capricorn, where it can be very dry and cold and dehydrated, hydration is literally very important to Mike. But it's also important that he doesn't, he has to maintain a sense of balance, since he's got a lot of very powerful Capricorn energy, which is thankfully supported by Venus, but a lot of earth and a lot of water can deal with a little bit more of a passive nature, which is nothing wrong, but the body does prefer to be active. It does prefer to be in a more active polarity. And so jumping quickly also back into your exalted Jupiter Cancer. So I love Mike's chart. I'm not going to lie. I think Mike's chart's one of my favorites, just because all the beautiful aspects. And we even have Chiron here right now too. Yeah. And so thankfully, when a planet's in its exaltation, it's not even really much of a problem, as long as it's not being malaspected, but thankfully Jupiter here in its exaltation, Jupiter in the body, it rules the liver. So here in Cancer, which rules the stomach and the digestive tract as a whole, Mike can really benefit from diet therapy and learning to cut out certain foods, because his metabolism actually is very, very efficient. It absorbs everything, meaning that, you know, if he eats something maybe not so good, or maybe a little bit something, you know, fattening, it's going to pick up. In the Taurus rising is fixed. You know, with much love and due respect to Taurus, but Taurus is the thickest of the zodiac signs. It's got the most, it's got the most mass for a reason, because, you know, no one can push a Taurus around, right? But there's an element of, you know, having to learn to adapt when needed and change when needed as well. And as well at the same time, learn to be fixed. And thankfully, Mike, being a mutable sun, cardinal moon, and a fixed rising, that's pretty balanced. That's literally as balanced as you can get. And so overall, his nature is pretty well balanced. Although I do know that, you know, oh wait, no, it's not the cardinal energy, but the fire energy that you lack. Since you only have your Mars here in Aries, and God bless you for having it, because Mars in Aries can be very, 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 very passionate and sexual. And here in the 11th house, it does deal with a need to connect and identify, not even identify, but to really, it's sort of like to desire externally. And this definitely ties into the 11th house, which is all about, you know, the public, groups, friends, and connections. But with Mars here in your chart in Aries, which directly squares over to your Capricorn in your 8th house, which is the house of transformation, you really have to make sure, you know, and this is more symbolic, since Uranus, Pluto, and Neptune, they're a little less directly physical, but Uranus rules the veins and it rules the nervous system as a whole, especially the sympathetic nervous system. So this is a very stimulating square. This is a very passionate square. And thankfully, Mars here is much stronger than Uranus. And so thankfully, Mike's got a lot going on for him. I'm not going to lie, because when you have Mars in its rulership and Venus in their rulership, and they too are opposites, that's the axis of the kidneys and the adrenal glands. And so thankfully, Mike's pretty balanced overall. The problem is when mentally things get out of whack. And since I know I'm jumping all over the place, but with this Jupiter Neptune opposition as well, there's a great sense of spiritualism. There's a great sense of needing to focus away from the notions of tradition, if you will, with this Capricorn energy. And speaking physiology wise, this is a very big focus on the liver and on the digestive tract, because remember, you are what you eat. What you put into your body will absorb. And I know this, to be honest, metastrology is very simple. Like, it's really just applying it to the body, and, you know, not being afraid to ask questions, and not being afraid to, you know, tell someone not necessarily who they are, but what they might be exposed to and how it relates. So this is definitely a beautiful chart to, you know, share with everyone. So I thank you for being such a good guinea pig.
I'll be your guinea pig. It's all good.
But yeah, so truth be, you know, let's ask the audience. So how is this kind of syncing up with you so far? And, you know, please feel free to say no or whatever.
No, you definitely hit on a lot of accurate points, and it's going to lead me into my next question after. But yeah, as far as like the metabolism, I've always had like a pretty fast metabolism. I think now that I'm going through my Saturn return, though, I'm having to be a bit more responsible with it, and I totally get the purging part too.
Yeah,
it's cool because, like, and I'll ask it now, you really bring in a lot of points and facets that to the average viewer will really just sound like speculation, but you're definitely hitting, I feel like you're hitting on points that people have to really understand the craft of what you're saying, so it doesn't sound like that. But
yeah.
Yeah, definitely get a shout out to Astro Phoenix. If y'all are interested in getting a reading with him, definitely do so. What's a good way? Because I know with what you're doing is so complex a field. It's nothing that you can really just explain off the bat. So what are efforts that you're going to put into really? I know you're gonna have to write a book about this at some point, but like, what's a really great way to really not. I don't want you to feel like you have to prove your claims, because I think that could be trying to prove it. But like, what's going to be a great way to do case studies to help people understand? Hey, if you have this transit, you might go through this. I think health predictions aren't really the easiest to make. Of course, someone like you with the Pisces moon could pull it off, but
I would never recommend it to the average Joe. I'll say that.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it's definitely not the easiest thing to do. But yeah, what do you feel about it? And thank you for the reading, by the way. It was definitely very
Oh, you're welcome.
I like how you didn't give me predictions too. You just kind of gave me an overall.
Never. One thing that I think that if you one quick message to determine who's a fraud, if they make a prediction and they're so sure of it, and it's different if you're making like one bold prediction, but if you're telling someone what their life is, that's a scam. Like, get the hell off. Anyway, but yeah. So excellent question. So my goal in life, or one of my infinite goals, is to bridge the world of ancient Greek medicine with modern technology, as well as astrology and how that relates, as well as just the modern spin on things. And to be honest, I'm so grateful that I came into this as a skeptic, because it taught me how to speak scientist. It taught me how to be scrutinizing. And you can't just go to a person and say, hey, you can't go to a scientist and say, let me read your birth chart, because then they're going to be like, oh, I'm now biased and blah, 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 which is true in the sake of quote unquote objectivity, which is ultimately a myth. Humans can't be objective. They can try, but they can't. Sorry. Maybe that's just me, but
I feel attacked because I'm air signs. So
yeah, I know you are. I know you are, but too bad. I don't want to hear it.
Like, ultimately, I can only have a subjective, limited perspective. I get that.
Yeah.
So humans can strive for an objective standard, but I think it is impossible for us.
But
that's hard.
To be honest, case studies, it's really the only way you can go. It's like what else would I do? And to be honest, I sort of have an idea for the methodology, because thankfully learning how to do my own experiments and like doing my own research and learning how to do though, I have the credentials to not like tell people the health side, but I know the map that I have to go, or at least the route that I have to go, where it's like I can't, I'm not going to go to a panel of esteemed scientists and be like, let me change your mind. I have to, but I can, as long as I have the facts, evidence, and I do it in a scientific way. And that it's really just speaking the language and getting the message across. Because think about it. If you have a message for the masses, unless people can understand you, it's going to be useless. So it's like, you're not going to go to Japan and speak Spanish to the entire country and expect them to understand you. It's sort of like learning how to play the game, while also being, a badass. Because I kind of feel like I'm, sneaking in, infiltrating the system, and tearing the rug off from under its feet at the same time. But I love. It's what I'm here to do. I'm, Pluto and Scorpio represent. We got to change the traditions and the dynamics. It is what it is.
No, that's fucking dope. And we definitely have our work ahead of us as Moon Saturns. You know what I'm saying? We're here to change the system and paradigm. I'm glad to make those mad in the process, because people are going to be really mad at you.
Okay, I get paid for it.
You know what I'm saying? Like, they're going to try to debug you so much, even though they don't have the authority to, because they haven't read a birth chart. So it's like, they're going to stay mad.
And to be honest, can I share some? Part of me is also kind of not, I wouldn't say scared, but I do think that some of my ego has taken in the fact that it's like, it's not even that I care about the resistance so much as that, oh, I just got mind swiped by what I was about to say too. Ooh, that was funny, but it was sort of like, what I was trying to, I literally just got mind swiped on TV. This is so embarrassing. I don't approve of this.
It's all good. Take your time. It's interference. The mind swiping is real.
It is real. It is so real. But I mean, like, because I feel like I don't want to see like I'm going to be like the new HBIC, but it's sort of like
hold on, you're a Leo. Yes, you do.
I know. I have to admit that. I have to admit that as an astrologer, I know about someone more than they know about themselves for the most part, unless they also know their own astrology. But even then, of course, I'm not going to tell someone who they are. But it's like, a doctor tells someone who they are all the time, and so it's like,
yeah.
And not to mention, one of the most haunting statistics I've ever learned in my entire life was that for high blood pressure, for 5 doctors, if you go to only 1 out of 5 doctors will recommend and prescribe exercise for high blood pressure. And that's horrifying because that is such a easy condition to treat. And a lot of what good health and wellness is, it's just lifestyle modification, like eating a right diet, not being a lazy bum, not overdoing it at the same time.
Not being a lazy bum.
Not being an asshole, not being, not being useless, being aware of the body. And to be honest, a lot of ancient Greek medicine brings in the notion of the four humors, which people are very quick to dismiss, and they want to ignore it, but they don't want to talk about the philosophical side of things because it's just as applicable. So for reference, Hippocrates knew that the four elements were found in the body, just not literal. I mean, no one has literal fire in their bodies; they would die. And so I think that people want to think things. We live in such a world of assumptions and dismissal where it's like, you're an astrologer. You're a health astrologer. You think you're going to change the world with health astrology? Whatever. But I mean, I love the adversary. I love the resistance because it reminds me that I'm doing something.
I love the adversary. That was well said.
Because it's like, if someone's wasting my time, they're going to get their ass beat. But like, motivation's motivation. You know what I'm saying? Because I had someone told me, when I told them I was astrologer, they told me to go get a real job, and I'm like, why don't you suck my real ass?
Right.
Like, why don't you shut up and have a nice tall glass of it? But I'm just, to be honest, I don't even. It's not even specifically like health astrology, but the fact that the body is affected by the soul, not the other way around. And of course, what happens to the body will affect your experience, but it does not define the soul. It does not define you. And, we're all here to do light or good or whatever in our own unique way. And that's just, this just happens to me, my vehicle, my vessel. I'm grateful for the opportunity to, help people and heal people through the astrology readings. Like, that's crazy to me. But, it's and there's a real world, there's a real war on, authenticity. There's a real world. Can you believe it? We're here in bodies. Can you believe in but it's like, and there's how many people, how many peace stealers are there? How many Apollodites are there? How many Leo kings are there? There's not many authentic real people out there. And so, and it's not even about the name, but it's about doing you. And to be honest, it's spiritual warfare 101. Don't bring flowers, please. Like, coming from a Mars and Libra, as someone who probably would be wearing flowers on a battlefield, I still probably want to bring them. What are my nodes? I am a North Node Libra, South Node Aries, which is detrimental because I'm a midheaven Aries. So it's like, am I supposed to work alone or never? So yeah, there's that.
Not bring flowers to a motherfucking war. I totally agree.
Yep.
100%. This time definitely flew. But
yeah, it did.
Yeah. Don't think we done though. We busting out the cards. So yeah, could you talk about you are the only person and like this field has gotten saturated. Like, everyone's reading tarot now. You are the only person that reads Clo cards.
Yes, I do. Yes, I do.
So could you talk about the saturation, and could you also talk about the cards you read?
Oh my God. Yeah. I don't want to get too into this because everyone, I was that one. Yeah, I was that one girl on YouTube, reading cards, and I still am, of course. But I mean, I feel like it's one thing because I feel like, and to quote Mike, what's the saying go? It's like many are called, but few are chosen, or something along those lines.
Yeah.
And I feel like it's one thing because I do feel like a lot of it's a trend. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I feel like a lot of it's a trend. It's groupthink. It's the way, it's pop culture. It's just the way that it goes. Not even spirituality, but just the notion of perception in the public eye and whatnot. And of course, I do think a lot of it is sincere and genuine. And if you do have your own tarot and whatnot, please continue to do so. But it's like, how many people are willing to do tarot every day? How many people are willing to do horoscopes every day? Or, to do what they need to do. And to be honest, it's easy to learn the definite. It's like, if you think about, the Rider-Waite deck, how many cards is that? What is that? 78.
Yes,
and
sir.
So it's easy. If you can learn 151 Pokemon, you can learn the definition of 78 cards on basic fundamental. I'm sorry. I'm just putting that out there. So it's true. Like, and it's like, it's not to say don't live your dreams, because I'm never going to tell someone ever that, but like, just ask yourself why, or ask yourself the question is, what is this person's motivation? And always listen to it, because there is a saturation. It's oversaturated. We don't do oversaturated fats. It's bad for your body.
And a lot of people really think that they can read tarot, but I'm sorry, you're not a good tarot reader if all you know are the basic meanings of the cards.
Yep. If you cannot tell, if you can read a card, but you cannot tell a story with those cards, because I could tell. Because like with the Seven of Pentacles, I could talk about how the unfulfillment that someone's feeling right now might not have anything to do with their physical reality, but the fact that they're relying on the physical reality for their emotional support. Like if you couldn't do that, I'm sorry, you can't read cards. Like, I'm sorry. And it's not everyone's gift.
And you start somewhere. It's cool to start that way.
But... Oh, of course. I didn't know how to read cards at first. I bought these cards in high school long before I had any intention of reading them. I did it for my senior year English project, where I used the major arcana to use as symbols for my life up until that point. And I got an A+ on it, and even the principal congratulated me. But that's just a flex.
It's just a flex.
It's just a flex. I can't help it.
Leo flexing.
I can't help it. I love it. I'm not gonna lie. I can't. I'm sorry. It is what it is.
I was like, excuse me, there's 807 Pokemon.
That's true. I keep up. Don't worry. I'm looking for Sword and Shield too. I'm looking forward to it. But
a long time ago. Like I need to get back on. It's just like, damn, I thought they were gonna stop at some point. Nope. Like it is what it is. That's what it do. So yeah, what's up with this Clo deck? You are the only Clo deck reader that exists so far.
So to be honest, it's not like I created them. I bought them. They are my physical possession. I bought them years ago. They were expensive, and so I use them. But so this series is actually based on a Japanese manga anime series known as Cardcaptor Sakura, which is the first anime I have ever watched in my entire life. Subtitles on VHS recording. The first 4 episodes I watched back to back to back to back. I'm pretty sure I could quote them in Japanese way back in the cut. But anyway, that's
the first time I'm realizing that was your first anime. So knowing that makes this even way deeper.
Yeah, since 1999, I think it officially came out. Came out by Clamp, and so basically the premise of it, and I don't want to go too much into spoilers, although it's not really a spoiler like anime. It's a magical girl. It's so feel good, but it's so good. It's like Piscean, it's like Cancerian, and it's like it leaves you just enough mystery and suspense, but it just keeps you on. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So basically, the premise of the cards or the series is long time ago, this half Chinese, half English guy named Clo Reed created 52 magical cards based on the sun and the moon, as well as the elements, and called them the Clo card. And so he also created two beings of the sun and the moon. And he's not that, he's a humble wizard. He's not like a god or anything, but he did create very powerful artifacts. So you have Caraberos, the sun guardian, and then you have the moon guy, Yue, on the back. And so basically all of the cards here, each one of them has a different ability, they're all spirits, and they can all be called upon when the main character, Sakura, uses them. And basically the story gets started when one day in her dad's basement, she finds the literal book, this one. She opens up the cards, and she calls out the Windy card, which activates and scatters all the cards. So the plot of the show is for her to catch all the cards again. And so each one of them has a different personality and different affinity. And so, for example, we have the sword card. This is one of the most violent. It tries to kill people. You know, it's very sharp.
Already my favorite card.
I know, right? And then, for example, and now we have the loop card, which warps time and space in a limited field to where it creates a seamless loop between them. And so they all have different abilities. Some are more powerful than others, but they were based on tarot cards, interestingly enough, because they all start with the word the. So for example, the sleep, just like the tower, the star, the judgment, you know, and so they're all based on them. So they are I love these cards because no one else uses them. And that's not to make me feel, special or flex, but I do think they're very interesting because they offer very interesting archetypes. Because, for example, we have the mirror, which can create a copy of its user, and it literally summons a spirit to do so. Now we have the move card, which can transport small objects. And so I don't necessarily use them as physical, indications of magic, but I definitely, they can be picked up on in terms of the archetype. And so I think this also ties in the notion of just general spirituality, when true intuition is just tapping into whatever specific story or timeline you're aiming for, or even not aiming for, in the one you're just in. And so sounds like Yu-Gi-Oh! Very similar, but these were created specifically with the intent. Shout out to Astro Phoenix, who's Team Score Bunny instead of Waterstar. I'm kind of feeling that, not gonna lie. But yeah, these are the Clo card decks, and I do readings with them as well. I also do my weekly Clo card readings on Future Life TV, where Mike and I are also on together, which is turning into High Vibes too. So it's gonna be incredible. Becca, the anime is called Card Captor Sakura, and I think it's 70 episodes in general, so it's not a bad watch. But yeah. So that being said,
so do you want to do? Let's see. How do you want to do this? How many cards do you want to draw?
do we want to play the questions game?
Yeah, so we can do the questions game first, or we can do it after. You want to do the questions game right now?
Let's do it after. Why not? Fuck it.
All right. So yeah, I want you to lead this. I'm basically gonna pull a card after you pull one and accent it. But how do you want to do it?
I'll just do by zodiac, I guess.
So 12 signs.
Yeah, might as well.
Let's do it.
Might as well. So for Aries, ooh, interesting. So should we give it time frame? I mean, time's not on here, so it's kind of useless. But
yeah,
whenever. We'll just say whenever. And so for that, yeah, true. Let's say within the next. We just started a new moon. Let's say within this next lunar cycle. Why not? Screw it.
Yeah, that's great. That's great.
So for Aries, we got the erase card. This is a powerful one because this talks about things no longer serving you in your life falling away, things eroding away very quickly, where you turn your shoulder and something else is gone. So for Aries, I definitely think, especially since this is your lunar cycle, and as you're preparing for your full moon in Libra, don't be afraid to separate from people or aspects of yourself that no longer serve you.
Sweet. So to add to the erase, we have the, I don't know if I want to do the top card or the bottom card. I'm going to do the bottom card.
Ooh.
We got the Two of Pentacles. The Two of Pentacles really want, wait, what was your theme of erase? Like to just let go?
To let go of that which no longer serves you, jobs, relationships, etc.
Okay, because the top card is the Four of Swords, which is more rest energy, but I'm gonna go with the bottom card. The Two of Pentacles is really talking about staying productive while you carry the themes of erasure. You still want to keep it moving. You still want to stay resourceful. It's actually promising you multiplying your income through hustling.
Very nice. So for Taurus, we have the sand card. So to me, this card represents reality shifting and changing. Because think about sand. It's physical, but it's not just one unit. It's sort of like reality itself kind of bending. So for Taurus, I feel like for a lot of you, this is talking about things shifting and changing, especially as we get closer to Taurus season. But for you, it's really talking about your personal ability to navigate while still not losing your value. So don't feel like you have to change in terms of your persona. Maybe your attitudes or maybe your day-to-day routine needs to change, but not your value, Taurus. So just remember that.
Let's see. Taurus Sama. Taurus Sama. We have the Judgment card. So I think what's facilitating this shifty sand is Pluto. It's definitely you fully awakening in this lunar cycle, which makes sense. You'll see this be the beliefs you have. And Uranus is in your sign, so it's going to bring out innate abilities that guide you to your highest purpose. You're going on a food adventure.
Ooh. So for Gemini and I, we've got the glow card. How simple and humble. This is really just a simple card because all it does is make little firefly lights. So for Geminis, I feel like this is going to be a lunar cycle where you're going to learn how to really lighten up. And especially since Mercury is almost out of Pisces, you're all learning how to leave this magical prison. But I do feel like the glow card is reminding you that, remember, like a glow is something humble. It's not bright, but it's still light regardless. So appreciate the things that you have because it will lead to something better, and follow your intuition because it might lead you down a little path.
I resonate. I like that. That's what's up. How ironic that Gemini is being told to lighten up.
With this Pisces energy.
Right. So Gemini, we have the 3 of Swords.
Ooh.
Definite cuts, definite sacrifices. But honestly, Gemini, the message I'm getting here is you need to reject somebody. I think there's an influence in your life you haven't rejected, and you're wondering why things are blocked. And like you have to block something so that its influence isn't blocking what you need, whether it's a habit, whether it's a personality. Keep that in mind.
Right on. Cancer, sun, moon, or rising. Interesting. We have the Maze card. So for Cancers, as the card suggests, you might be moving through some very confusing territory. What I'm getting intuitively is I feel like a lot of Cancers are in a very foreign place, whether that's physical, emotional, spiritual, existential. But don't be afraid to move forward because there's nothing you have to fear in the maze. It's just more or less maybe a distraction. So if you feel like you're being played even in some way, shape, or form, maybe if you're not actually being played, go along with it. Make sure that, because remember, in a maze, no one knows the exit, right? So use any confusion that you might run into as opportunity for creative expression, if you will.
Beautiful. Cancer fan, the card that we have for you is the 10 of Cups. Boo. This is very self-explanatory. Ecstasy and orgasms. Congratulations, Cancer. Enjoy.
Yeah, and it's funny because I did channel. It was funny because when I got the maze, I was thinking like it doesn't feel like it's a loss. It feels just like kind of like movement in a weird way. So interesting. So for Leo, sun, moon, rising, we have the jump card. Gotta jump, jump, jump to it. Shout out to Aretha Franklin. May she rest in peace. But for Leos, I feel that the jump card is talking about very fast, very positive opportunities for you to spring and go. This is a week, or I guess, well, what did we say? A lunar cycle for Leos to really take any opportunities that they get, because, you know, if you think about a jump, it's not just one motion, it's a few motions where you're literally, you know, gaining the energy to move and then you're moving. And so, you know, once you see that stimulus, go, jump. It's reflexive.
Beautiful. And the card we have for you, Leo. First of all, I'm getting a message for you strong, Leo. There are people who are just going to be mad at you, and you just need to let them be mad. You need to make sure they get even more mad. Like, I literally just see people getting mad, and instead of you trying to gain understanding, it's like, yeah, what's up, motherfucker? Like, holla at your boy. You super mad. All right. So we have the Judgment card, the same card for Taurus, fixed sign reception. So whatever you jump for is aligned to your highest purpose. Leo rising, Leo moon, Leo sun. Get it.
Right on. Virgo, sun, moon, rising. We've got, we got one of the two most powerful. We got the light card. So for Virgos, I definitely think that there's going to be a lot of illumination, a lot of understanding. And I especially feel, with all this Pisces energy coming to an end. So for Virgos, this is going to bring a lot of awareness, but just realize that the truth will come out. And so, you know, don't be surprised if you've been assuming some fake people are going to start to act fake. So just realize that it's not going to be anything new so much as just, I told you so. So just kind of smile and kind of like dance, I guess, Virgo.
Virgo, we got the 9 of Cups. So you're very mutable. There might be some bad, but there's some great too. You're manifesting your desires. This is specifically a cycle of desire manifestation. So I don't get that you want to make a wish. I get that whatever you've been wishing for is coming true through you. You're manifesting it physically.
Ooh. And so for Libra, Sun, Moon, Rising, we've got the Cloud card. So I feel like you're being observed, Virgo, or a Libra rather. And it's funny because I feel like the Cloud card is a reminder for you to maintain healthy options. Because remember, if you think about the clouds, it doesn't matter where you go, because you're not going to run into something higher than you if you think about it, right? So it's about endless horizons, and being aware that no matter where you go, there's always going to be someone there, but that doesn't mean that you have to deal with stupid people. So really just be aware that, you know, choose your environment wisely and don't be afraid of moving.
Libra Sama, the card that we have for you. Libra-kun! We have the Queen of Cups, which is telling you, okay, it's telling you to listen to your feelings, but it's actually telling you to listen to that emotional friend of yours, that emotionally intelligent, mature side of yourself and friend of yours that is forcing you to acknowledge feelings that you don't want to acknowledge because they're not logical, but it's on point. And even though the Queen of Cups can denote you falling deeply in love, I really get for you, it's specifically tied to an individual in your life who is like very tuned into your feelings for you. And she has some tea. She literally has some tea for you, Libra. So drink up. Drink up.
Word up. Anyway, so Scorpio, Sun, Moon, Rising. Ooh, we got the Sleep card. So I feel like for you, Scorpio, Sun, Moon, Risings, the Sleep card is a reminder to get some rest. Don't feel like you have to do everything in one sitting. Don't be afraid to pace yourselves, because Scorpios can be very obsessive, where they don't even sleep until their enemies are dead, which is very respectful, but not very good for your overall health, wellness, and being. So I feel like this is a good message, Scorpio, just to take a nap, learn how, literally just sleep, learn how to pay attention to your body more and don't neglect it. Don't, be afraid to, rest if you need to, but also don't be afraid to make important moves as needed as well.
And also, just to kind of clarify, because when in this field, we use shortcut languaging to like make things short. So everyone who is an adept at astrology knows you're not your sun sign. Like you're not Gemini, you're not Leo, unless you're like a first house sun and you identify with it. But it's like you have all the 12 zodiac signs in your chart. So when Tim and I are pulling the cards, we're not pulling cards for you. We're actually talking to the energy of Leo. Think of, in the case of Scorpio, I'm pulling the card for Scorpio. So I'm talking to the actual vibration of Scorpio, and think of Scorpio as an energy that runs through certain representatives. Some might be you through your soul. Some might be you through your sun. So keep that in mind. I think that's going to talk to some of you. And the card that I have for you, Scorpio, with your stingers and your secrets, is the 10 of Wands. You have a massive responsibility because now Jupiter's in your second. And so you have realized you actually have to reveal some deep, dark secrets, not about you, just about things in general. And you know that there's going to be consequences to making certain people aware of what you've kept hidden. And all falls on your shoulders, and just don't procrastinate and don't try and do too much at once.
Yeah, true. Very, very true. And real quick, just tying in what Mike says, we all have sun signs, moon signs, every signs, right? That does not mean that that is your only aspect. That's like saying you are your right arm, but you're not your left. And so it doesn't quite make sense. It's like you are, say, a Sun Gemini or Sun Leo, but that is not all your experiences. So Sagittarius, ooh, nice. Sag, we've got fly, air. And so I feel like for the Sag tribes, this is talking about new opportunities. What I got actually was travel, long distance, being able to move to a place that really allows you to grow and to expand, even if it's just mentally, even if it's just an environment or a new group of people. This is a very social energy, I feel. So I feel like definitely for Sag is good opportunity to do something wild and reckless because you might make a friend on the way.
Sagittarius. Fly is definitely very suiting. Fly, but be patient. Sagittarius, it's actually not. I mean, those who know, but for those who don't know, Sagittarius's experience of reality flows at an advanced pace. So it's like time moves faster for them because they're representing the passion of life. So the Seven of Pentacles is saying that you don't have to rush this process because I think some of you are feeling that you need to manifest more, but it's already there. You just move faster than this dimension. So you just kind of have to nurture what you already have. Just kind of let it, mature and grow. Nurture those seeds, my friends, my partners. And then that one's in crime because we fucking shit up. Anyway.
Sometimes too much. Sometimes you need to sit down. Sometimes you need to eat your food before playing with it. God, it's like, can I just share? It's so awful being stuck between like Leo or Gemini and Libra, because it's like we're the middle trio kind of, and it's like I can't take Aries or Sag or Gemini seriously. And so when Aquarius and Libra fuck up, it feels like I'm the only air or the only light sign that's like holding it down. It's like, damn. But that's neither here nor there. That's just me being shady.
No, but that's quite the perspective, being in between Gemini and Libra. That's damn.
Wow. Well, I mean, yeah, if we're speaking, air-wise, right? Hilarious, though. So for Capricorn, Sun, Moon, Rising, or whatever resonates, really, man. I mean, we got the Storm card. Ooh, so this is kind of like the Tower card. So this is talking about a very, very powerful shift. And I'm pretty sure I actually got this last week for my own stream, too. But interestingly enough, I think I've been getting this card a lot for Capricorns, which makes sense for Pluto and for Saturn and whatnot. But Capricorn, your life's ending. I don't know what to tell you. Like, I feel like I've been saying that to Capricorn.
You dead! You dead!
I don't want to say that, but I mean, like, to be honest, though, there can be a message here because there's always the calm in the eye of the storm. So just because everything's going on in a shit show around you does not mean that you have to be part of the shit show. There is honor in bailing out of something that does not have integrity. Remember, you do not have to go down for pride because that is a deadly sin.
No, Storm is perfect for having Pluto and Saturn in that sign. It's true. El Cuervo
I didn't want to say it.
And the South Node, yep. So it's bringing up old beefs back into the El Cuervo. You right. My soul is getting it. The goats are transforming. So we have the moon, and this is talking about covert intelligence agencies trying to distort perception and take advantage of the unclarity people have so that they can get at you behind closed doors. Now, is there sympathy here? No, Capricorn, because you have superpowers. So you're really just going to have to know that things aren't as they seem. I'm picking up strong here. This is a Pisces card. The moon card is talking about deception. It's talking about you realizing that you have a sense of what's going on, but you can't put it in words because of the manipulative rhetoric around what's being done. Even though the moon has a lot to do with psychic abilities and just feeling into what's there, I'm getting that you're dealing with covert agents who are taking advantage of the fact that people aren't in the know to distort lies against you. So keep that in mind. This is a card of Pisces too. And yeah.
Word. Aquarius. Ooh, interesting. We've got the twin card. And so I feel like for Aquarians, this is trying to find your balance, find your harmony. And this is not necessarily the twin flame card, but it is a card about finding an equal match, someone who can handle you. And so I feel like for many Aquarians, this could be a friend, family, lover, doesn't matter the context, but whoever you're going to meet for in the next lunar cycle, that shares a more personal vibe with you, roll with it. No matter, you know, if it feels right, it feels right.
Beautiful. Ooh, Aquarius. I just manifested an Aquarius synchronicity right now. The best. I got, ooh, yes. I got the Page of Cups, baby making. I'm hearing baby making music right now. If any of you have any crushes, if any of you are into somebody, let them know. Write them a letter. Get at them. You might be on the receiving end of somebody who has feelings for you. But this is talking about new feelings. This is talking about getting inspired in a new way and psychic gifts developing too. But I really just get baby making, like, you know, some nice baby making music in the background.
I was kind of tapping in on that with the twin card too, but I don't want to say anything.
Ooh.
But with the Pisces, last but not least, ooh, how appropriate, we have the Through card. And this card allows you to pass through walls and other physical objects. So for Pisces, this is literally what they do anyway. So it's like, what is it? It is what it is. But for Pisces, I definitely think that this is talking about, again, just kind of phasing through things, not being afraid of confronting someone, but you know, there's a difference between confronting someone and then letting them get to you, where you can show up and have their words phase through you and just laugh at them, because that is showing up and solving the problem, as opposed to just beating someone up, as opposed to maybe Aries would. Neither one is right or better than the other, but you know, definitely don't be, you know, above, you know, be above that petty shit, but don't be afraid to, I don't want to say, you should never like sneak diss someone, but if someone's being petty and wants to subtly shade you, do it back. Who cares? You're Pisces.
Yeah, I agree. Like if you need to give someone a taste of their own medicine, no one does that better than Pisces.
True.
No one does that. But the card that I have for you, Pisces, is the Queen of Swords. So you know what I feel here? I feel like the Queen of Cups for Libra was Pisces, and the Queen of Swords for Pisces is Libra. There's mutual reception. So it's like you might give someone emotional advice, and this Queen of Swords is going to set you straight, because yeah, I know you feel like, you know, these unicorns are talking to you from another dimension, and they are, and you know, you're tapping into possibilities of how someone may be feeling about you that isn't grounded in reality at all. But this Queen of Swords is going to help you understand how to make sense of that logically and critically, how to really, and if this doesn't apply to an actual woman, it's you stepping greater into a deeper sense of professionalism within yourself that allows you to not only be objective, but to focus solely on your individual project. But nah, I'm picking up that this is an actual woman that is like very much so going to, I hope you're not beefing with this woman, because Libra and Pisces have a secret beef. Like it's not, yeah. They're not like Aries and Scorpio that is gonna like be open with it. Like y'all have a secret beef. Like y'all secretly hate each other but are obsessed with each other. So I get it, but just be mindful. Like this person, whether antagonistic or protagonistic, they're going to give you high intellectually logical insight. It's gonna be good for you.
Awesome. And let's do one more card for everyone.
Let's do it.
Ooh, we got the Jump card. Ooh, and we got the Dark card. So I feel like this is like hopping away from the darkness. We also got the Erase card. So I feel like it's more so as something.
You're not getting jumped by the dark?
No. If anything, it's more like, it's kind of like, I mean, I'm not going to let, if you see someone who's not, if you see someone getting jumped and they deserve it, don't help them. It's kind of like, not to be so cruel, but I mean, like the Erase, to me, the Erase and Dark card are like Saturn and Pluto, and it's like you don't want to fool with someone who doesn't have integrity, so dip, get the hell out. Like I said, there's no shame in bailing if it's something without integrity. Like no shame in getting the fuck out of that, whether there's a job or a situation. Just whatever feels right, just dip away from it, you know, or if it feels wrong, rather.
That's definitely a message. Card I have for everybody. You see this man with the world in his hands? It's Mars and Aries card. What would you do right now if you had all the resources and fortune that you can. What if you could write down a list of everything you would plan if you can do? What would you do? Because the magician is saying you can do it. Now you have all the resources, whether you think so or not, and you want to believe in yourself, and you want to get it done, and you want to blank out the voices that are, you know, trying to discourage you because they ain't shit. And shout out to Astro Phoenix. There needs to be an astrology comedy tour. It's coming. It's coming. It's gonna be lit.
We're gonna have an astrology roast. We're just gonna go all in. People are gonna leave crying.
The first annual astrology roast. It's gonna be lit.
Oh my god.
Yeah, other than that, let's play the 3 questions game, I guess, to close.
All right.
Yeah, you know how it goes. You can go first and then I'll follow you.
All right. So this is so funny because it's like I never like ask you questions because I always like I either know what you're going to say or I know the answer myself. So it's kind of funny. So let's just do this like an education opportunity. So I guess my first question is for you is how do you I guess it's more like share a personal experience, if you will, but how do you find it easier to laugh in the devil's face or even in the face of adversary in general? What's a tip or trick that you use?
That's a really good question. So my moon is in the 8th. It's in Capricorn. Even if it's in the 9th, it's an 8th house influence. You know, it's on Saturn, which is like the devil. So I always coin myself the devil's attorney. I am someone, whether I want to control it or not, I have to work with the light and the dark. I'm on the team of balance. And it's like, I know how to the way I can laugh in the face of dark and evil is to look at things objectively. And you asked such a good question. I have great experience with this. It's the first 30 years with Capricorn energy is so difficult because you're just bearing responsibility and you're having to feel, especially in the 8th house, see ugly sides of people's characters before they're hypocritical and act like they don't have it, but it is what it is. So the dark principally operates through deception. And this is the best part of having a Gemini sun, because we carry the spirit of truth. I mean, when we're not in integrity with that, we become filthy liars and we just kind of say whatever the fuck. But when we're on it, we're very truthful. So it's easy for me to laugh in the face of evil. It's easy for me to laugh in the face of darkness because they principally operate through deception and darkness. And when you realize that in the face of truth, in the face of you having integrity, they don't do anything other than confuse and deceive, they don't have any real power. This is why you have the power to trample over serpents and scorpions. And I don't mean Scorpio, but like in the way that it's said, to where when you walk your truth, even if someone's going to manipulate, and I've gone through this too, where someone with a higher platform is manipulating perception, and it's easy for evil to laugh back at you and be like, see, I'm doing all this. The truth always prevails in the end, and your attitude is key. So, you know, when you know ultimately that they're fighting a losing battle, employing things that are not real, it's easy to laugh. And that comes with a good faith in knowing that you do fight for the winning team, and you are in a winning team because you walked in integrity and in the light. So great question.
That was beautiful. Well said.
And my question for you is, you know, as a Pisces moon, and I think even as a Leo sun, you're very much so a master of Nen. That's a secret.
I mean, it's gonna get blown up anyway, but it's like it's a surprise.
I think Hunter x Hunter, which it's funny, I have episode 71 on my browser right now. I think Hunter x Hunter is one of our bonding points very well.
That one?
Huh?
Which episode's that one again?
The dodgeball episode.
Oh, legendary.
Yeah, the last of the 3 dodgeball episodes. So what do you feel about Nen development and just life force auric energy? I know you're someone who can feel into the life forces of others. So what do you feel about the development of one's aura and where that's going? Do you feel like our generation has better auric control, or we're taking it to different places, or like what's all that about?
Good question. Very good question. I'm glad you asked this. Well, for reference, if I told an old person, hey, you can channel aura through your body and heal yourself and you don't have to be as miserable, they'd laugh at me. But if I told a child that, they would have the ability to understand that. So I always think that when it comes to new generations, of course, it's kind of like the new model, right? It's kind of like the new cultural narrative. But I do think, some people say, Christ consciousness, DNA activating. And to be honest, I've noticed physiological changes for myself throughout the years that are not necessarily definable. Of course, when you look, any sign, and that's the thing is about science is, oh, you're experiencing these symptoms because you want to, because you think you are, the placebo effect, and da 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 da. But I mean, like I can see auras. I kind of went. I really let my aura flow one night, and I could feel it. And I think that, it can heal the body. Reiki is real. Obviously, any jackass can, say they're a healer, of course, but you can do this about anything. But I do think that when it comes to the new generation, there's not going to be a cultural resistance to it. And so I think, of course, they're going to be able to do it. And I do think that humans have always had the ability, and some very few, like throughout history, have been able to do so. Only like monks, people who have like lived by themselves for like a century. So I do think that in the sense of auric control and of Nen, it's going to be awakened to the point where in the Hunter x Hunter universe, if you don't know what Nen is, you can never be a hunter. But it's now to the point where you can't be a hunter unless you have Nen. Which I mean,
that makes perfect.
You know what I'm trying to say by that? Like you can't be a pro hunter. They're called hunters and then pro hunters. You can't be a pro hunter unless you have Nen. And I feel like what we're moving into now is like a world with Nen. You either have it, and I believe we all do have it, some more than others, like myself, like I'm a battery for it, right? But for some other people, I feel like they could do it, but it just necessarily won't be that good. And like, even in Hunter x Hunter, people have specializations, they're manipulators, they're emitters or whatever. And so I think that everyone has their own unique strengths and auras and characteristics. So it's not even about learning what you can do as a culture together or a group. It's about what the individual learns and how that relates. So, if you're here now and, you've got an aura, or, know what Nen and Reiki is, flex it, practice it, because you're going to be ahead of all these kids. Because trust me, the kids now are going to usurp all the old folk. Like those who are aware now will be good. But those who think that magic isn't real and life is not magical, I don't know.
You're fucked.
You fucked, kid. You fucked.
You're screwed.
You're really fucking screwed. You screwed, kid. That's a Boston thing.
Yes.
But anyway, so I hope that answered your question. So I think my second question for you is, this is a good one, but what's the most important thing that you could arguably, at least in your opinion, know to be true about, I want to say life, but more so about magic, since life is kind of magical? Like, what is something that, and in order to be successful in life, what do you need to know about magic?
I love it. As you're saying that, I'm looking at the magician card.
I love it.
Yeah. In order to be successful, what do you need? In order to be successful at magic, what do you need to know about it?
Or just in general in life, in terms of like the magical aspect of things.
There's so much I want to say about it. So I'm thinking of one thing to say. It's purely perceptual. The magic is more so about perception and how you view experience. I like to see magic as like an adjective. It augments experience. What makes something magical is how you perceive something in a way that could defy either warp. There's so many applications to it, but it's definitely not something you can control, and it's definitely not something that you generally have versus something that you are, and a quality that flows through you. So one of the main things that I can say, just like G-Doc said, you create your own reality. Everything inherently is magical. The fact that you can breathe air right now, the fact that your retinas can, refract light, fucking magical. Maybe it's a more realistic, logical way of seeing it, but magic is not just limited to the abstract fairy tale. That's a specific type of magic, divine magic, right? But magic can apply to everything that exists. It's definitely linked to the mutable signs, and I feel like the less you try and control it, And the more you believe, if we think of the highest level of magic, it's Sagittarius and Pisces, and it's all about belief. One thing, in order to be really successful when it comes to magic, you have to understand that just because something is a law, just because something is fact or right, doesn't mean that there isn't an exception, doesn't mean it can't change. The difference between magic versus manipulation is a matter manipulator will have to follow the bounds of logic and science. Magic usurps the laws of science. Magic can make something not make sense, and that'll make sense because it's magical. It doesn't need to be proven. And the dumbest thing you could ever do is try and quantify and logically explain a magical experience, which is ultimately meant to be personal and subjective to the person experiencing it. So I hope that answers the question, because there's so much. We could do a whole...
I know, yeah, it's a lot, but that was perfect. That was fantastic. Yeah, really well said. Well done.
Appreciate you. My second question is a bit of a hot seat question.
Oh, I love that, you know.
If you had a child,
okay, would
you vaccinate your child?
Yes. I mean, not to sound so like, you know, or whatever, but I mean, like, yes. I'd rather have a baby with autism than polio. What kind of shit is that? I'm sorry. Like, even when stupid, I don't want to get too angry about this because I hate stupid parents, because I think that to have a child is one of the most sacred lives that you could live.
Well, that was the question I really wanted to ask. Like, what are your views on anti-vaccinations or vaccinations?
So I can completely understand the desire to, because like in today's day and age, there's subliminal shit everywhere, you know, food shit, drugs are shit, you know, everything shit. There's, you know, there's crap everywhere. But the thing is, I think because I want to do my own research, of course. And to be honest, I personally don't get the yearly flu vaccine just because I don't think it works that well. Because to be honest, I don't really go that much out and I'm very healthy. So it's like, but I mean, when it comes to children who have decreased immunity responses, and considering that if you got sick little Betty who's got the polio vaccine or whatever, and they go visit grandma in the nursing home who's already got a compromised immune system, you know, little Debbie could kill grandma. And so it's like, do you really? And it's like, I think that there's this, and I think that this is kind of, it ties into the notion of how much control of a parent should they have over a child. And especially when it comes to effects of the body permanently or whatnot. And, you know, not to get too sidetracked, but even something like circumcision, which might seem like very minor, and certainly it's not life threatening, it is cutting off someone's body, you know, it is, you know. And so I think it's an important topic in the terms of, you know, child self-rights, but at the same time, you know, diseases are preventable. Like measles are preventable. Like diseases that are dead are being brought back because people aren't vaccinating their kids. And I don't know, personally, maybe it's just because Apollo is the god of healing and plagues, so it's like we can avoid it. But I mean,
it's something I'm mixed about, because I mean, I grew up with my mom being a pediatrician. Everyone that I notice has actual experience in the healthcare industry or studying medicine is for vaccines, I've noticed. And then people who are anti-vaccines, it's really hard to find an anti-vaxxer who knows what they're talking about or like actually has credible information. So I'm mixed. I feel like maybe we don't need as much vaccines as we're given, but I don't think that to rule out vaccines completely is also dumb. I think there's truth in both sides. And what I want to do is actually create a panel. I want to have an argument with like 3 people who are pro-vaccines, 3 people who are anti-vaccines, and actually have a debate and kind of get some more information. But yeah, I was really wondering, like, if I had a child, you know what I'm saying, would I vaccinate them? I kind of would feel bad if I didn't, but now this makes me want to research what vaccines you put in them, you know what I mean? But yeah. Good to know.
And I'm also kind of like noticing that a lot of people in their chat are like telling me to like do my research and whatnot. And granted, like I never take anything at face value, so I'm not going to assume that vaccines are a savior. But I think that a lot of people really just kind of want to go with trends because, you know, a vaccine is, you know, and people talk about heavy metals and whatnot, but I want to look into that myself. But here's the thing: if it's not from a peer-reviewed scholarly article, how am I supposed to judge on anything other than my experience? You know, and it's like. The fact of the matter is that polio was here and then it was gone, and so.
Sorry.
What's that?
No, I'm so sorry. Right now.
Oh no, it's all good. And it's like I just do, like, of course, because like I don't think that we should rely on vaccines or modern day medicine, but I mean, like, the thing is, it's like, if you, what happened if you have a child and and they have measles, and they say we could fix this in an instant, and your child would not be at the risk of dying. And you know, and everyone wants to say, oh, I'm not going to vaccinate my kid because it's my right. But also, what happens when there's a sick child at school who maybe can't get vaccinated, and now they potentially die? And so I think that it's a battleground. But I do think that, for example, if you do believe that, if you'd rather have your child, if you would rather have your child have autism than a permanent disability like polio or measles, you need to reevaluate. But that, maybe that's just me, because I know it is.
And the thing that's annoying about this is people always throw the term big pharma around. Like I'm not the biggest fans of the negative parts of big pharma, but that is dangerous because it makes you distrust every single pharmaceutical organization as if they're like these evil medicine giving people. And some of the coolest people are pharmacists. So it is what it is. It's definitely needed conversation. Definitely.
Because I was just going to say, just because the concept of a vaccine is introducing a weak pathogen that's not strong enough to damage the body, but weak enough that the body can kill it and literally study it with the T cell, so it can create antibodies. So when there's the actual virus or pathogen, the body is trained for it. So it's like a training program. So I think that a lot of people think it's like a miracle substance that your body keeps in forever. And yeah, heavy metals do, live in the body forever. But if you assume that's, like, I feel like with all, it's very tight-walky, because it's like, if you assume that all big pharmas are, bad and all vaccines are bad, how has it gotten this far? But I mean, of course, how you could say that about a lot of conspiracies, but.
And then there's these personal accounts, because I've heard it on both sides. Like some people have gotten sick because they didn't take vaccines. And then there are rare cases where people say that they've gotten sick because they've taken it. It's just, it could also be a post ad hoc fallacy where you're kind of just saying that this happened and it's because of that. So there's a lot of discourse as we are in there. Yeah. But yeah, we're on the that was a good round. We're on the last round now.
Yeah. And just for the record, I am not entirely for vaccinations. I think, and for doctors in general, if you go to a doctor for a sore throat, you're a pansy. Drink some ginger tea and get over it. Stop getting it. See, the thing is, people want to get more antibiotics and shit than needed, and it creates superbugs, and it makes more. There's a need for more powerful drugs. There's a need for more powerful resources, and so it's prevention. And some doctors do perpetuate disease for profit, but if you must be cautious, because truth be told, like, your mom's a doctor. I don't know who she is. I'm not going to call her a quack unless I meet her and have a patient conversation or whatever. But just for the record, some people do bring up interesting personal accounts, but can I trust your experience or my own? And that ties into Mike's magic question, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, so final round. So it's not really much of a real question, but I guess sort of like an opportunity for you to state something. But what would you like your opposition to know?
Sagittarius. Oh, God damn.
Not even Sag. I just mean those who oppose you in general.
Oh,
your enemies. Your the other, if you will.
Ooh, I'm gonna get dark real quick. Okay. Yeah. The only thing I'll say is what I always say. I don't have enemies because they don't last long. They just drop like flies. That was the 8th house. Yeah. Honestly, if you think about open enemies being your 7th house, I can answer this very responsibly, and I can be like, before you want to antagonize someone you don't know, if you do oppose me in any way, at least have a heart-to-heart with me. Be real. At least don't just talk shit about me because you heard hearsay over someone's opinion, or you just don't like an aspect of me. Have a heart-to-heart with me first. Like, I can't respect anybody who is going to feel a certain way about someone. Like, I had a YouTuber that I'm not going to say his name, but I actually did a peace talk with him. And I went to his channel and I tipped him. Dude straight ignored me. Like, he act like he didn't see it. And I even called him out on it, and he wanted to act like a bit like a kid. And it's like, I can't respect if you have beef with someone and you don't have the courage to talk to that person and be like, hey, I don't like this about what you did. I can at least respect if you have a heart to heart with me and be like, hey, screw you. I don't like you. I think you do this, this, and that. And we argue and we don't get along and you still talking shit. I will at least respect that we had a heart to heart. But so many people are sensitive and cowards. It's just so annoying. So I really don't even acknowledge opposition. My 7th house is empty. Like, I don't do enemies because I have a contract with Saturn, and anyone who's getting in the way of my destiny, my North Node is ruled by Uranus. It's in the 8th. You done. You done. Yeah. Spirit. I'm not just saying I've lived this. That's why I don't have a lot of enemies. Like, I don't have a lot of people that oppose me. Never works out well for that person, especially because I don't get at people like that. I don't antagonize people. So it is what it is. I'm going to ask you the last, we are 100 episodes in. So
we got 100 likes too.
This is the last. I think this is a record. We don't usually have this. I think only Sharon and maybe even, not even Lisa. I think Sharon might have had just as much. And you're both Pisces moons, opposite suns. This is the last time I'm going to ask this question. I'm going to retire this question after the 100th episode, and I'll even do a montage of all the answers. But what are your 3 favorite zodiac signs? And what are your 3 signs that give you the most challenge?
Oh, good question. I knew this was coming. So I'm glad you asked me that, because I would have been offended if you didn't. So now we're closing. So we're closing up this chapter. So of all time or in the moment? I mean, all we have is the moment, but
yeah. I guess so. What are you feeling now?
All right. Well, of all time, of course, I'm gonna say Leo, because my shit doesn't stink. And I think we do so much work in the world, and I don't feel like a lot of people appreciate it, because remember, the sun rules Leo. So I mean, it is what it is. Second sign, I'm gonna say Pisces, because I'm also biased. But I also think that the water mutable essence is very, 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 very important to embrace, because madness is beautiful. And I think everyone should embrace the Piscean essence, which is all about fantasy and living in it. Because if everyone understood that life was a dream, it would be so much better. It'd be so much better.
Yeah.
So I guess my 3rd favorite, I don't want to start a war. I don't want to start beef with anyone. I'm torn, because I'm not gonna lie. I really, I gotta love my fire tribe. I love Sag. I love Aries. I love Gemini too, but Gemini needs a backhand every once in a while.
You don't love us. You annoyed by us. Your Pisces moon wants to fucking suffocate us with a pillow.
I know, really. Oh my god. I'm gonna honestly though, like with I don't want to choose just one, but I'm actually going to break the record and the stigma, and I'm gonna give a surprising, respectful shout out to Virgo, because I know Virgo gets a lot of shit, but it does keep things in line. But Virgo, stop acting like you don't like it. Stop acting like you don't like the masochism. I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. Like, stop it. And I am a Mercury in Virgo. That I'm very biased to admit, but it is what it is. And so my 3 least favorite in this moment. Oh God, I'm gonna start a war. Give me 1 second just to look at the wheel. Okay. So I'm gonna say only because they are in sort of if there was a 12-way zodiac competition, I feel like Capricorn's at the bottom right now. And so I feel like, sorry, Capricorn, you're in the bottom this week, because I don't know. I feel like a lot of Capricorns are giving way to temptation and giving way to a lot of negative energy, which is not to say that this is always happening, but
they're dying.
I just feel like a lot of, and I think it's just the Capricorn essence in life being changed forever. And I think it's just like the notion. So I admit Capricorn is a little bit tainted, but I've got nothing for everyone. So I don't even want to seem like a fake bitch, but I'm just going to, fuck Aquarius. No, that was a good. Much love to note. And
guys, the Leo Aquarius beef is real.
It's real.
Leo Aquarius beef is real, y'all.
I mean, like, and if you're an Aquarius sun, again, don't take it personally. It's not about you. I mean, unless the shoe fits. But how can you say you're of the people and not have an ego? How can you say you're part of the collective consciousness and say that you have an ego? Shut the fuck up. I'm sorry. I'm so sick of Aquarians thinking that.
That's fired.
Not all Aquarians, but like some of y'all need to stop. Like Aquarius will write a shitty script and then get mad that no one wants to watch it. It's like, no, you did it to yourself. Yeah. And it's like if you're gonna claim to know everything and you fuck up on one mistake, I'm gonna read you for filth and never let you live it down. And then like and it's like even Mike on that one time when he was emotional on stream, I'm like, that's in your Akashic record. That's not going anywhere.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, not to like, and the chat's going up. I love it.
Yeah.
My third energy that I beef with the most, I definitely think has to kind of go to Cancer. Because Cancer, you think that everything's so great in your world, but you forget that you make it more turbulent when you emotionally manipulate people. And then when people find out, and when Scorpio snitches on you as they should, and because Scorpio is a whistleblower, but not like they won't blow. It's like a dog whistle, like you can't hear it. God. Oh my God, I don't buy this, Cancer. Because Cancer's like,
be instigated.
Cancer's like, woe is me. I'm so emotionally sensitive. I'm gonna take action on it and get mad then when people hold me accountable for said actions. I don't want my feelings hurt though, but I'm gonna lash out.
So the best caveat and excuse that I hear Cancers make is when they'll admit they emotionally manipulate, but they're like, we emotionally manipulate people to do good things.
Yeah, yeah, and I'm a Pisces moon, so I do it too, sweets. But it's like Cancer is the most manipulative. Scorpio doesn't care well enough. It's a lot of energy that it has to expend. No. But Cancer cares. Cancer wants to manipulate everything.
I grew up with two water sign sisters, Cancer and Scorpio. Scorpio is very manipulative.
That's true.
All the water signs are manipulative.
Scorpio is going to manipulate you, but you know it.
You know,
and see, Cancer's like, I'll heal you all. Because
that's true.
Because think about it. Because if you look at the first half of the zodiac, there's only Cancer for water. So it's like this notion of only caring about your own emotions. Because Scorpio has to deal with other people's emotions, and so does Pisces. But Cancer only focuses on its fucking damn self. Don't ever tell me, Cancer, that you're so empathetic and that you love.
So is that why they care about others? So that they can. It's like, oh, I cared about you. I did all this stuff for you.
I wiped your ass that one time. I took it to trash the other time. What do you mean you don't want to deal with my emotional manipulation anymore? What do you mean? What do you mean? Yeah, it's like, what do you mean, Cancer? What do you mean?
It is unhealthy how much you are dragging water right now. It is what it is.
I just praised Pisces and the fuck out of it. And I have a very powerful on-off relationship with Scorpio. But Cancer's the only one that I beef with on site. I'm sorry. Like bitch, let's go. It's like you got claws. I got claws too. Like, like what's fucking good? Like, I'm sorry. I can't. Aquarius has its good moments, and when the teamwork's real, it's real. When that 12th house, it's on site. Like it is. Like, and I can smell it too with my Pisces moon, and so it's like
I can smell it too.
And it's like Libra will just as much manipulate, but it won't do it emotionally. It will just do it socially. But Cancer wants to go to the psychological warfare. But I hate saying it, but Cancer is like the coldest zodiac sign only because it can't take the fucking heat, and it can't survive that initial. How many times do we see Aries and Cancer be for the same reasons that I just put out there?
Oh,
I'm just gonna. How many times has an Aries been authentic? How many times has a Cancer been authentic? But the Cancer has won because they've said that the Aries made them upset.
Because
maybe this is just me personally, but shout out to Chad. Yeah, but I mean, I'm not letting Cancer go. Sorry, Cancers. Cancer silence is deafening. To me, it sounds like harmony. Cancer, you're being silent. Good. That's the sound of you shutting the fuck up.
Yo, this is OD. I'm sorry.
Like, I don't want to like have a war with Cancer, but it's like you've got the North Node in your sign right now, boo boo. Check yourself. I just had the North Node go through Leo. It's intense, and And if you fuck up, the world's eyes are on you. So Cancer, you've been emotionally manipulating for years. Let's see how well you stack the dominoes up, boo-boo. Sorry, I'm not gonna, you know.
Yo, Cancers are gonna come for you. I hope you know. I know you're ready.
For my pearls. Come for my pearls, you basic ass. And besides, if this isn't true, why are Cancers getting mad about it? Are you just sensitive about everything? You know,
I'm really coming for y'all. He really coming for you. This is so.
What are they gonna do? Sidestep to me? What are they gonna do?
That's amazing.
You know, I'm gonna get like harassed by 1,000 Cancers in my dreams tonight, but it's like,
hold on, because like the Leo Cancer beef is real. Like that's the only reason why
the Leo Cancer beef is real. The Aquarius, that 7th house, 12th house relationship beef is so real.
Like I was gonna try and like sugarcoat what you were saying, or not sugarcoat. I wanted to put you in check, but I can't because it's so authentic. Like that Cancer Leo beef is like it exists. It's so secret. Like
it's the sun and the moon, right? It's like it's a dynamic beef, but it's like shout out to Aang who called me crazy because I am. Thank you very much. Pisces moon life. We have to work for it. But you know, it's I'm sorry, like not to rash and shit on Cancer, but it's like I'm not gonna lie, out of all 12, it's my least favorite for the reasons that I just put to the court today. So let me ask you, judge the Cancers in your life and see if what I'm saying holds up or if I'm just full of shit. Because I don't talk for my fucking health. I don't talk at all. And so if there's a Cancer out of line, I hope you got pissed tonight because I expose you. Can't handle the first house sun life, can you? You shrivel up. Go back to the ocean.
No, it's amazing because like I could have a Cancer and they would talk the same shit about Leo. So it's fair.
It's fair, but I mean, what's more important, living your life sincerely or bitching and whining and complaining about it?
Yeah. Okay.
So Alexander asked a really good question. Are one of my parents Cancers? No. But I've been backstabbed and betrayed by, I think, more Cancers than any other zodiac sign. Someone very close to me was a Cancer. That wound still has yet to heal, but you know, fuck up, because it's like if you've got something to say, but it's not important enough for you to say it, or you don't feel strong enough to say it, then maybe it was kind of weak. Maybe you should, you know, I don't want to say categorize your feelings because that's incorrect, but you know, maybe you shouldn't burn someone's car for, you know, insulting you the other day, or at the very least, don't get mad when they do it to you. Like I don't know, but anyway, rant over because it's nothing but love. I've got Cancer on my chart too. We're all 12 zodiac signs, but I will say, Cancer, when all 12 signs drop the ball, you drop the hardest. I'm sorry, maybe that's just me.
I'm a progressed Cancer sun, so like
never will be about that life.
I don't self-manipulative, but I mean, the negatives of them I could totally see battling for sure. But I love that Mars and Moon is in Gemini because I'm here to instigate all this.
Right. I kind of knew it.
This is the greatest way to close this out. And yeah, so how can people reach you? I have your website and YouTube channel below. Make sure y'all hit them up on High Vibe as well. And also, yeah, what services do you offer?
So I currently offer, I just launched my brand new website, and I'm so excited, at Apollodite.com, which is in the description. I offer half-hour or hourly readings. You can book them there on the website. I also have 30-day monthly tarot reports for both regular tarot as well as my Clo card deck. So if you like the cards tonight, I do those always and frequently. I also have some reports up for my website as well. So I highly recommend you all check them out. We're about halfway through April, so I guess my April horoscope's not so useful, but I mean, it's still up there. So if you want it, it's still there. But yeah, I've got my daily health horoscope on High Vibe or Future Life technically right now, for my daily health horoscope, as well as my free general weekly health horoscope, the weekly Clo cards I do, and 12 sun signs. So definitely don't be afraid to show me some love on there because I get daily content out. And on my YouTube channel, I do live weekly horoscopes. And I think we've got some people from that part of the woods as well in here because it's a good time, you know, and I would love for you all to join and be a part of my tribe. I mean, it's all a tribe together, but
absolutely.
I mean, but yeah, I really appreciate it.
And little known secret, but a horoscope is actually most potent at the halfway point. So if you haven't checked out the April now is the perfect time to check his out. Because once you're at the halfway point, you can actually, with retrospect, know what the month was like and then know what's moving forward. So yeah, make sure you hit him up. Do you have any final word of advice, especially for the Cancers? No,
well, I'll say, okay, so I'll leave on a positive note for the Cancers, the good ones that do enrich and nourish. There is and with the North Node in Cancer, this is a perfect lesson. So sincerity is the name of the game. So I went off on Cancer, but I did it sincerely, and I did it with love. And whatever you do in life, if you do it with love and genuine love, and not some half-assed ego notion of love or relationships or sexuality, but true notion of appreciation that starts with the self, you can truly cultivate true sincerity and true meaning. But at the same time, or not at the same time, but just be yourself. Ultimately, you will never be wrong for being yourself. Whenever you think that you're wrong for being you, it's someone else that tells you. It's something else, or some anxious voice, or something in your mind. So, you always, first of all, if you're here, you're a winner. You would not be here if you were not meant to succeed. And so it's really just embrace love yourself, and realize that no one can ever take love away from you, because it's something universal and something that can always be found within.
Amen. And yeah, I didn't expect to go this long.
But yeah, definitely. But it is what it is. And
see what happens, Dark Forces. What was that?
I was just gonna say, I was just thanking everyone for being here.
Yeah. And see, you can't interfere us. We just come back stronger. It is what it is. And y'all stay tuned for the next peace talk. We're gonna have the Gem Goddess in the building. Other than that, we had fun. This was really awesome. This is one of the best peace talks we've had. So thank you, bro.
And thank you all for liking. I can't believe we got 120 likes. That's freaking crazy. That's ridiculous. So I feel the love. Ooh, 120 is a sacred number too.
Holler. All right. Y'all stay blessed as always. And until next time, peace out.
Goodbye.